After the divorce, I was tricked into joining a dating show, and my ex-wife panicked. Chapter 051 Zhu Ji's Change. After several minutes, the phone on the table was silent. But soon, Feng Ruosh's phone suddenly rang. She picked it up and looked at her grandfather with some resentment. Grandpa Zhang called. Old Feng grinned. The phone is on silent, don't worry about these old ghosts. Hearing this, Feng Ruoshi nodded immediately. It's not that she didn't want to answer, but she knew that. After answering this call and explaining, there were still several calls to explain, so she simply didn't answer any of them. Seeing that the grandfather and grandson didn't answer the phone, the group finally calmed down and stopped calling. However, at this time, in the group where old Feng was, dozens of 60-second voice messages deeply expressed their mood at the moment. 60 seconds is Wei Yixin's limit, not their limit. In the heart-beating house, Ji Shui did not study for long. He took the 2 pieces of paper back to his room. Seeing this, Mengder immediately ended today's live broadcast. These tens of millions of viewers directly poured into major social platforms at this time. Especially Weibo, which ranks first among social platforms today, is overcrowded. Several topics quickly became hot searches like comets, and continued to climb up. # is it really difficult to make up a broken mirror ##. The new generation of film queens publicly announced their love affair ##. What is his charm that is liked by 3 goddesses at the same time ##. Calligraphy masters appeared in variety shows, forming their own style ##. With a sky full of stars and fireworks as a betrothal ##. Truth or dare, Su Jinyu answered explosive questions ##. In the top 10 Weibo hot search list, 6 of them are about the variety show Heart-Beating Lovers. And these are all spontaneous discussions by the audience, and the program group did not buy traffic at all. Seeing his show so popular, Mengde lay on the stage, grinning from ear to ear. The next morning, Shen Yu got up early to exercise. As soon as she went downstairs, she heard the sound of ding-dong from the kitchen, and she was curious. It was only 6 o'clock now. Except for herself, other guests usually go downstairs a little after 7 o'clock. How come someone got up earlier than herself today? And she came to the kitchen immediately. As soon as she walked in, she saw Zhu Ji carrying a bag of rice, shaking it like a penguin. Shen Yu said softly, "Zhu Ji, why did you get up so early today?" A voice suddenly came from behind her, which scared her. She was relieved when she saw that it was Shen Yu behind her. "Well, everyone took good care of me yesterday, so I thought I'd cook some porridge for everyone to thank them." Shen Yu nodded and said, "Okay, I'll simply prepare some side dishes to go with your porridge." Then Shen Yu quickly washed and cut the vegetables, while Zhu Ji watched the tutorial and prepared his own porridge. Shen Yu did not help, but just watched with his peripheral vision, so that he could correct anything that was wrong in time. Although Zhu Ji was a little clumsy, he still strictly followed the tutorial and did not make any mistakes. Shen Yu quickly made several side dishes with relatively large quantities. After finishing, Shen Yu looked at Zhu Ji and said, "How is your foot now?" "Much better, it doesn't hurt as much as yesterday, and the swelling has also subsided a lot. Come to the sofa, I'll help you again." Zhu Ji did not refuse, his face was slightly red, and he nodded softly, and then followed Shen Yu to the sofa in the living room. Shen Yu took a closer look and found that there was nothing serious. Then he smiled and said, "It's almost healed. You don't need to apply ice today. I'll give you a slight massage to promote local blood circulation and reduce swelling." As he spoke, he gently massaged Zhu Ji's ankle clockwise. Before Zhu Ji could refuse, she felt a pair of warm hands touching her ankle. The softness and gentle pressure of the fingertips relieved the pain in her ankle. Looking at Shen Yu, who was massaging her seriously, her face was as red as a monkey's butt. Her heart was as sweet as honey. It is said that serious men are the most handsome. At this moment, Shen Yu is the most handsome. She couldn't help but stare at him in a daze. Shen Yu didn't massage for long. He only massaged for 3 minutes and then stopped. "Your ankle can't be massaged for too long. 3 minutes is just right." Zhu Ji came back to his senses after hearing Shen Yu's voice. He said a little embarrassedly, "Thank you, Shen Yu. I understand. Then you take a rest. I'll go outside to exercise first." He went to the bathroom to wash his hands and walked out of the heartbeat house. When Shen Yu came back again, the show had already started, and Wang Ming and others had already come down from the building. Su Jinyu saw that Shen Yu was still using the old towel, and immediately said, "Shen Yu, why don't you use the towel I gave you? My towel is also new, and I haven't used it for a few days. I put away the one you gave me first, and I will use this one after I finish it." Su Jinyu reluctantly accepted this answer, still mumbling, "Then you must remember to use it." Shen Yu nodded, and was about to say something. Suddenly, not far away, a sour voice came out. "Since you are back, let's eat quickly. So many people are waiting for you." It was Shu Cai. Hearing this, the other guests frowned slightly. But Zhu Ji on the sofa couldn't sit still and said bluntly, "If you don't want to wait, just make it yourself. I made the porridge and Shen Yu made the dishes. You didn't do anything and just sat down and waited for the meal. What are you doing here?" As soon as their voice fell, including Shen Yu, everyone looked at Zhu Ji in shock. Some couldn't believe that she actually fired directly in front of the camera. Luo Ji and Su Jinyu looked at Zhu Ji, and then looked at Shen Yu, and clearly felt that something was wrong between the two. Zhu Ji and Shen Yu didn't get along before, but now he helped him directly, and one of them cooked porridge and the other cooked dishes. There was something wrong. I thought to myself, she wouldn't have any ideas about Shen Yu, and suddenly I was more vigilant about Zhu Ji. Shu Cai's face turned pale and blue in an instant. He wanted to refute but found that he had no way to refute. He could only shrink aside and sulked. Unlike Shu Cai's cowardice, his little fans in the live broadcast room were extremely outspoken. "Fuck, what kind of person is this Zhu Ji? How dare he say that about us Gij? That's right, what's wrong with us Gij eating a little of your food? It means we look up to you. Putting aside the facts, don't you have any faults? Gij is not angry, they are all bad people, I draw a circle and curse them." Chapter 052 The fire of jealousy burns fiercely. Seeing the comments of Shu Cai's fans in the comment area, other passers-by were a little speechless, and they didn't want to argue with them. What kind of people are they? Putting aside the facts, you don't even talk about the facts, what else can you say? I really don't know how old this person's fan group is. After breakfast, Su Jinyu and Luo Ji volunteered to go to the kitchen to clean the dishes, while Ji Shui came to Shen Yu with the lyrics and music from yesterday. "Shen Yu, I wrote down the lyrics and music last night. Let's rehearse now." Shen Yu nodded. He had this plan just now. Although he saw that Ji Shui's singing skills were very strong during the last performance, this was a wedding that only happened once in a lifetime. He didn't want to make any mistakes, so rehearsal was still necessary. "Then let's go to the yard and stop disturbing everyone." He stood up and walked out the door. As soon as he stood up, Zhu Ji grabbed Shen Yu's hand. "Shen Yu, I want to listen too." Looking at Zhu Ji, Shen Yu was too embarrassed to refuse her. He squatted down. Seeing this, Zhu Ji smiled and climbed onto Shen Yu's back. Shu Cai was standing aside, staring at the two of them with a gloomy face. Shen Yu didn't see it, and even if he did, he wouldn't care. After putting Zhu Ji on the recliner in the yard, he and Ji Shui sat on a small stool. Then he took out his mobile phone and found the accompaniment music he had made last night. "I made the accompaniment of this song last night." Ji Shui was surprised when she saw the accompaniment Shen Yu brought out. She thought that the two of them would sing a cappella today, but Shen Yu made the accompaniment overnight. After they were ready, Shen Yu pressed the play button. The moment the accompaniment sounded, they instantly got into the mood. They had never worked together before, but they cooperated very well. Their voices were also very well matched. The beauty, persistence and perception of love contained in this song were fully reflected. Zhu Ji, who was sitting on a recliner nearby, smiled sweetly when he heard the chorus of the two. Soon, the song ended. Ji Shui looked at Shen Yu excitedly. She never thought that the two of them would be so compatible. It was just one rehearsal, and the effect was so good. And after this rehearsal, she found that she liked this song even more. Shen Yu was also a little surprised that the two of them could be so in sync. After reacting, he smiled softly. "It seems that we don't need to rehearse anymore. We can go on stage to sing at noon." Ji Shui had no opinion on this. The rehearsal of the two was so perfect that there was no need to make any changes. While the three of them were smiling, the audience in the live broadcast room was anxious like ants on a hot pot, protesting wildly in the comment area. It turned out that Meng De, the chief director, in order to maximize the effect of this song on the stage at noon, actually ordered the staff to turn off all the microphones on the three people. In other words, they didn't hear a word of Shen Yu and Ji Shuyi's duet just now. They just watched the two people's affectionate singing and Zhu Ji's intoxicated look. They felt like they were scratched by a kitten and felt uncomfortable. Fuck, you are such a jerk, you muted it. I thought my phone was broken, you are such a jerk. You are such a bad old man, I am not good at talking, so I wish you to be a young man with a mole. Brothers, let's talk. Although we can't hear the sound, it seems that Shen Yu and the goddess Shu Yi cooperate well. After singing, the three did not return to the living room immediately, but started chatting. After a while, Luo Ji and Su Jinyu also came out and joined the camp. The four girls glanced at Shen Yu from time to time, which made him a little embarrassed. Soon, Wang Ming and Guan Mingzhi also came out. Seeing that they were chatting happily, they couldn't help but complain, "You guys didn't even invite us to the meeting. You are not a team anymore." Shen Yu smiled and pointed to the two small stools opposite and said, "We just finished the rehearsal. I'm too lazy to go in. Let's just sit in the yard and chat." So far, 7 of the 8 guests in the program group have sat in the yard and chatted. Only Shu Cai was left. His face was livid and his heart was full of depression. He really couldn't stand Shen Yu and didn't understand what was good about him. Why did all the female guests gather around him? Luo Ji and she were college classmates, so there was no need to say more. Su Jinyu publicly expressed her love within a few days. Zhu Ji, who was originally hostile to Shen Yu, now seemed to have become Shen Yu's little follower. The change was simply outrageous. As for the last remaining Ji Shuyi, because of singing with Shen Yu, the relationship between the two became very close. Even Wang Ming and Guan Mingzhi had a good relationship with him. He really couldn't understand. He was obviously the chosen one of heaven, a recognized musical talent, and everyone should revolve around him. Instead of this unknown Shen Yu, Shu Cai really couldn't bring himself to actively integrate with them. So he sat on the sofa with a guitar in his arms, playing some notes casually. With empty eyes, and his thoughts drifted to who knows where. Shen Yu and others saw that Shu Cai didn't come out to chat, and didn't care much. Shu Cai wasn't a child anymore, and they weren't his parents. Naturally they had no interest and patience to persuade him. Meng De saw Shu Cai's appearance in the camera, and his nameless fire was immediately ignited. He spent a lot of money on the announcement fee to invite Shu Cai to their variety show. Now he was so blatantly playing badly, which was really disrespectful to himself and the show. Only a small live broadcast room was left for Shu Cai. The main live broadcast room and the other 3 sub-live broadcast rooms were all aimed directly at Shen Yu and others in the courtyard. After everyone chatted for a while, Wang Ming suddenly had an idea in his mind and said with a smile, "Should we play a game? Anyway, there are less than 2 hours to attend the wedding banquet." As soon as their voice fell, Guan Mingzhi on the side smiled and said, "You can play games, but can we not play truth or dare? There is really nothing to ask." Everyone's mouth corners also slightly raised. Yesterday's truth or dare game had already drained several people. Wang Ming naturally knew this, and patted Guan Mingzhi's shoulder. "Don't worry, I definitely won't play truth or dare. I don't know if you have played it before. You have a game that I don't. Chapter 053 I've been divorced. Do you have it or not? Just play this, I played it on a variety show and won first place." Su Jinyu raised her hand to agree when she heard it was this game. Seeing this, the others also agreed. Then the 7 people stretched out their hands and showed 10 fingers. As the initiator of the game, Wang Ming naturally got the opportunity to speak first. After he looked around with a chuckle, he said proudly, "I have won the Huabiao Award." As soon as he finished speaking, Su Jinyu said proudly, "He, I have also won it, and I just won it last year." Seeing this, Wang Ming smiled and said, "Jinyu, how could I forget you? It doesn't matter. I will make you bend a finger in the next round." Brother Huang, don't make it through a round." Except Su Jinyu, the others broke a finger helplessly. There is nothing to say, Wang Ming and Su Jinyu won the award. Guan Mingzhi, who was standing by, didn't expect Wang Ming to kill everyone right away, and he wailed, "You can actually play like this, Brother Huang, you are too cruel. If that's the case, don't blame me for bullying you." He stood up and walked to an open space, grabbed his left foot with his right hand, formed a circle, and then jumped into the air, and his right foot jumped directly into the circle. This action made the guests gasp. After completing this action, Guan Mingzhi shook his hair proudly and said with a smile, "I know how to do the iron threshold." Wang Ming and others bent a finger without saying a word. After seeing this, Guan Mingzhi became more and more proud. His skill has been invincible in all major variety shows. But before he could wait for a few seconds to be happy, that's it. A voice came out very abruptly. It was Shen Yu. Guan Mingzhi looked at Shen Yu in astonishment. At this time, Shen Yu had already stood up and also came to the open space. He easily replicated Guan Mingzhi's previous action. Everyone present was stunned for a moment. Guan Mingzhi was also a little dumbfounded. This signature trick that has been used in various variety shows was cracked just like that. He wanted to prove himself immediately and stood up and said, "Brother, give me another chance." Shen Yu smiled and asked, "Do you want to change legs?" Then he grabbed his right foot with his left hand and made the same action again. Seeing this, Guan Mingzhi sat down again without saying a word. What a joke! He couldn't even change legs now, so he didn't come out to embarrass himself. The audience in the live broadcast room burst into laughter after seeing this scene. Har har har, our Mingzhi's trump card in variety shows is gone just like that. From now on, the iron threshold is no longer your unique weapon. Shen Yu is really versatile, just like a treasure. As long as you dig deep, you will definitely find water. The person above, what you said seems normal, but why do I always feel something is wrong? It's not the kind of water that I understand. After Guan Mingzhi finished speaking, it was Zhu Ji's turn on the recliner. Zhu Ji looked at his still swollen ankle and said, "I'm sick." Zhu Ji thought he had made a decisive move. But Wang Ming stood up right after he finished speaking. Who doesn't have some illness these days? I have fatty liver. I have oral ulcers. I have allergic rhinitis. I have some hair loss. Guan Mingzhi and others rushed to the front, fearing that others would not know that they were sick. Zhu Ji was stunned when he saw this. This is really a Chinese who is always strong. He is really bold to say it in order to win the game. The audience in the live broadcast room was stunned and laughed from ear to ear. Luo Ji also did not bend her fingers. If lovesickness is a disease, then she is incurable. Shen Yu, who was standing aside, looked at the crazy crowd and silently bent a finger. Beside Zhu Ji was Shen Yu. He lowered his head and pondered for a while before saying, "I have eaten locusts." Who hasn't eaten locusts? I have. As soon as Shen Yu finished speaking, Wang Ming stood up and smiled proudly. Su Jinyu and others were also excited. Yes, it's crunchy and chicken flavored. One bite and the fragrance lingers in your mouth. Seeing this, Shen Yu spoke again. Then I have eaten scorpions. Wang Ming and others laughed even louder. These things are now very popular. Shen Yu thought that they had not eaten them, which was simply a free-point question. Not only locusts and scorpions, they also ate cicadas, silkworm pupae, etc. Shen Yu had no choice but to sigh and give up. A round of the game passed quickly. The guests tried their best to make others bend their fingers. Everyone started to fight hard. The audience in the live broadcast room was very satisfied. After all, they were also very interested in the private affairs of celebrities. When it was Wang Ming's turn again, he had been forced to bend 4 of his 10 fingers. His competitive spirit suddenly swelled wildly. Looking at the guests who were staring at him, he laughed coldly. "Pay attention, I'm going to start killing. I'm divorced." Everyone present couldn't sit still. Guan Mingzhi's face was more yellow than the banana leaves hit by frost. He looked at Wang Mingdao with resentment. "Brother Wang, you are too cruel. I haven't even had a sweet love." Wang Ming smiled and patted Guan Mingzhi's shoulder. "Mingzhi, you are still young. There are many possibilities in the future. Just bend a finger now." Su Jinyu and other guests also bent a finger reluctantly. There was no way. They were not even married, let alone divorced. Wang Ming looked at Shen Yu, who still didn't bend his fingers, and couldn't help but remind him. "Old Shen, you forgot to bend your fingers, hurry up." Seeing this, Luo Ji and Zhu Ji couldn't help but look at Shen Yu. They were the only 2 people present who knew that Shen Yu was divorced, and they couldn't help but worry about his current state. But Shen Yu didn't have any other feelings at this time. He was unusually calm when Wang Ming asked. He said very calmly, "I'm divorced." These for short words. It was like a nuclear bomb, heavily exploding in everyone's ears. Wang Ming and others were like being struck by lightning, and they were stunned in place. Su Jinyu and Ji Shuyi's heads were even more buzzing. They covered their mouths unconsciously, and forcibly suppressed the scream that was about to come out. The eyes suddenly widened, with an unbelievable look on their faces. At the same time, Shen Yu's words caused a stir in the live broadcast room. I just heard something. Shen Yu said he was divorced. Did I hear it right? I can't believe my ears. This melon is too big. This is really too exciting. I didn't expect Shen Yu to be married. Now the goddesses will definitely stay away from him. Family members, you are not curious about who is willing to divorce a man like Shen Yu. If it were me, I would like to lock him up at home and pamper him day and night. Jimei upstairs, this is the comment area, not the no man's land. You should wear pants before coming. Chapter 054. Attending the wedding in the heart-beating house, Wang Ming and others reacted after a while, and they looked at Shen Yu with surprise in their eyes. Wang Ming couldn't help but asked in a low voice, Old Shen, are you really divorced? I remember you are only 24 years old this year. Shen Yu nodded and said with a smile, I am divorced. I had a girlfriend in college and got married after graduation. I just got divorced not long ago. Luo knows it. Suddenly, all eyes were focused on Luo. Luo raised her lips and teeth slightly, and her gentle voice came out directly, indeed, he got married as soon as he graduated. We old classmates are envious and jealous. Guan Mingzhi had an idea at this time. Sister Luo, were you envious or jealous at that time? After hearing Guan Mingzhi's question, the audience in the live broadcast room couldn't help but applaud. Guan Mingzhi really understood what they wanted to hear, and the question he asked was really explosive. Luo turned her head and glanced at Shen Yu, and saw that his face was still calm. She breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile. As for me, I am neither envious nor jealous, but I can barely say I am resentful. We haven't been in touch for 3 years since he announced his relationship. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They didn't expect that there was such a story between Shen Yu and Luo. After hearing Luo's words, the audience in the live broadcast room couldn't help but feel some sympathy for her. Luo is too infatuated. Others are married, but she is still waiting alone. Who would have thought that such an excellent goddess Luo is actually a love-brained person? I would like to know who is the one who married Shen Yu, and who is better than our goddess Luo. No wonder Luo, who has never appeared in public, appeared on a love show for the first time. It turned out to be for Shen Yu. Alas, goddess Luo has finally gotten her wish after all the hard work. All these years of waiting have finally paid off. Not necessarily. Look at Su Jinyu and Luo. They are also eager to see each other. After Shen Yu finished talking about his divorce, the guests present suddenly looked different. Especially Su Jinyu and Ji Shuyi, who were in a daze. They also became listless when playing games. It was obvious that Shen Yu's words had a great impact on them. After playing for more than an hour, the pointer had already pointed to the direction of 10 o'clock. Shen Yu immediately ended the game upon seeing this and led everyone to Liu Jiyuan's home. The wedding banquet started at 11 o'clock. They needed to arrive early. They couldn't just sit down when the ceremony started. After Guan Mingzhi called Xu Cai out, the 8 people walked towards Liu Jiyuan's home. There was no need for others to show the way. They just went to the lively place in the village, which was definitely Liu Jiyuan's home. After a day of recuperation, Zhu Ji's foot injury, the pain had eased a lot. Although it could not be completely healed, it was not affected by his slow walking. Not long after walking, a wedding tent, also called a wine tent, was built on the road in front of the 8 people. There were 2 rows of round tables in the wedding tent, covered with red paper. At the end was a built platform, which was probably where the bride and groom held the ceremony. At this time, the wedding tent was bustling with people. The children were chasing each other, chewing sweet wedding candies, and having a lot of fun. Compared to the children in the city, their clothes were not from big brands, but they were neat and tidy. But their spirit was very different. They lacked electronic products and retained the last bit of childishness. Su Jinyu, Wang Ming and others were all attending a rural wedding for the first time. They were shocked by the scene in front of them. They looked around curiously, wishing to put everything into their sight. And at this time, they were also quite novel in the eyes of the villagers. They knew before that a program group came to shoot something in their village. But there were still very few villagers who had actually seen Shen Yu and others. Most people had only heard about them. Now they suddenly saw the 8 young and beautiful male and female guests, and they couldn't help but look at them a few more times. Especially those unmarried men and women of marriageable age in the village. Everyone blushed, and dared not look directly at Shen Yu and others, and would sneak a peek from time to time. Wang Ming and others naturally saw this situation. Although they usually live under the spotlight, they don't want to be admired like giant pandas. Let's go to the gift room to register the gift money first. Led by Shen Yu, the 8 people came to the small courtyard with red couplets posted on it. At this time, the inside of the small courtyard was full of red lanterns and colorful flags, which looked festive. There were also many people in the courtyard at this time. On the east side of the courtyard, against the wall, a table covered with a big red cloth, 2 elderly gentlemen were holding pens and recording the gift money of each relative and friend. Shen Yu came up to him immediately after seeing this. The old man smiled and said after seeing Shen Yu, "Yeah, what a handsome young man, how much do you want to give as a gift, and what's your name?" Shen Yu took out a bulging red envelope from his pocket. This was what Mengder had stuffed into Shen Yu's pocket on their way here. "Old man, please write the program group of Heart-Beating House first, and then write Shen Yu. Yu is the Yu of Zun Yu in the 3 Kingdoms period." Then Shen Yu asked the old man to write the names of all 8 guests. Finally, he handed over the thick red envelope in his hand. "The gift money is 8,888 yuan, please check it." The old man was also surprised when he heard that Shen Yu gave so much gift money. "Oh, the young man is very crooked." As he said, he opened the red envelope and checked it. After confirming that everything was correct, he wrote down 8,888 yuan in the amount column. After paying the gift money, Shen Yu looked at everyone's curious faces. He immediately smiled and said, "Then let's go around and see what the local wedding customs are like." Wang Ming and others had been looking forward to it for a long time and were eager to try it. When they heard Shen Yu's words, they naturally agreed with both hands. Su Jinyu said even more bluntly, "Let's go and see the wedding room of the bride and groom first." As she said that, she pulled Ji Shuyi and Luo Ji beside her and rushed to the room not far away. Seeing this, Shen Yu couldn't help shaking his head and laughing. How could they get into the wedding room at this time? Sure enough, the 3 of them came to the door of the wedding room. Su Jinyu turned the door handle and found that the door had been locked. After shouting a few times to trouble you to open the door, the person behind the door seemed not to hear her and ignored her at all. Su Jinyu saw this and immediately showed an angry expression on her face. It was really too much that everyone in the room heard it, but they pretended not to hear it. Chapter 055 Your meat dishes are eating your vegetables. Shen Yu saw this and hurriedly stepped forward to explain. The groom is about to pick up the bride. They are blocking the door and will not open it no matter what. Let's go somewhere else. Wang Ming also said with a smile. Old Shen is right. When I got married, Bao Qiang and others blocked my door for half an hour. I was exhausted. Hearing what the 2 said, Su Jinyu gave up the idea of entering the door. Then the group walked out of the door. Guan Mingzhi heard the noisy sound coming from behind the wedding tent. Immediately asked curiously. It sounds so lively behind this wedding tent. Let's go and have a look. Behind the wedding tent is the kitchen. It's so lively because they are preparing the banquet. We will eat these later. Hearing this, everyone became more interested. They had not seen the production process of the banquet in the back village, and immediately expressed their desire to see it. Shen Yu naturally had no objection, and immediately followed everyone to the open-air kitchen at the back. As soon as he entered the kitchen, he saw many people working enthusiastically, some washing vegetables, some cutting vegetables, everything was in order. The big table on the side was filled with dishes that looked very appetizing. The aroma of various dishes in the air, superimposed together, suddenly exploded in everyone's nasal cavity, and everyone swallowed unconsciously. Xu Cai watched the chef put the cold dishes from the big basin into the plates with his hands. He frowned and said, "This is too unhygienic." He actually used his hands directly. What if something goes wrong when eating? Moreover, he cooked directly on the roadside. All the dust in the air is in the dishes. How can we eat it? Shu Cai did not deliberately lower his voice. Not only Shen Yu and others heard it, but even the chef who was standing not far away and cooking heard it clearly. The chef turned his head and glanced at Shu Cai. After seeing that his clothes were not those of a local and there were cameras filming around him, he swallowed the words that were originally on his lips. For a city dweller like Shu Cai who pretended to know everything, he had no interest in arguing with him. He didn't have the time. The moment he heard Shu Cai speak, Shen Yu felt something was wrong. As expected, he heard Shu Cai bragging here. He hurried forward and explained with a smile. Don't be angry, brother. My friend is from a big city. He doesn't know about these things in our countryside. Don't mind it. The chef didn't have much resentment. After Shen Yu apologized, his mood recovered a lot. After looking at Shen Yu, he said, "You are a good guy. The food in the restaurants in the big cities may not be as clean as ours. Our chickens, ducks, fish and meat were all killed at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning today. These vegetables were picked from the fields contracted by ourselves. Just talking about the freshness of the ingredients, those famous restaurants in your big cities can't compare with us." Shen Yu nodded after hearing this. What the chef said was indeed right. Just talking about the freshness of the ingredients, even if the restaurants in the city are top-notch, they can't compare with the countryside. The chef was obviously stimulated by Shu Cai's words just now. Once he opened his mouth, he couldn't stop talking. Also, we don't have any black technology here. We use real ingredients. Our kitchen is open air and can be seen by the villagers. If we really talk about health, it may not be worse than the restaurants in your city. Although I grab the cold dishes with my hands are clean. Just like when you cut vegetables, do you still need to wear gloves? Luo Ji and others on the side also nodded in agreement at this time. What the chef said was reasonable and well-founded, and even they agreed with it. Shu Cai on the side turned pale and blue. He never thought that a chef who cooked in a small village would dare to publicly criticize him. Doesn't he know the power of his fans? As Shu Cai expected. At the same time, in the live broadcast room, many of his die-hard fans began to abuse the chef brother crazily. Using hands is unhygienic. Our Gidge did nothing wrong. What are you pretending to be? This Shen Yu is such a jerk. Why should he apologize for Gidge? This is an insult to him. I really feel sorry for our Cai Kaizi. Is there anyone from our Ari Kuan who is willing to go to this village and support our Gidge? Registration starts now. I'll register. I don't have an ID card yet. I'll steal my household registration book to buy a ticket tonight. In an instant. Shu Cai's fans made the entire comment area a mess. Various outrageous remarks emerged one after another. What's worse, some are minors who don't even have ID cards. After seeing their casual slander of the chef and Shen Yu in the video, some passers-by who just wanted to watch the live broadcast quietly were instantly furious. They couldn't help it. They shouted, "Kiat," and instantly became Zwan people. They started to confront those Ikuan people who were confusing right and wrong. It's true that you put a suppository on your mouth, and you just spit it out when you open your mouth, what the hell? A bunch of little brats, you guys percent hashat. Brother upstairs, you cursed too dirty, and it was all harmonized. Sorry brother, I was really angry just now and couldn't control it. Of course, there are also many rural netizens who give everyone correct science popularization. Is there a possibility that it's not the poor hygiene, but the poor environment? It's so funny. Let me put it this way. Before the meal started, the meat dishes on your table were eating your vegetables. There is absolutely no problem. The village is all about reputation. If you have a problem, no one will ask you to be the chef. My third uncle cooks the dishes, and my second aunt washes the vegetables. Will they harm me? After the chef finishes cooking, he will sit down and eat together. Will they harm themselves? Just when Shen Yu was chatting with the chef brother, suddenly there were several explosions of firecrackers not far away. The chef paused and said immediately, "It seems that the groom has brought the bride back. Little brother, you guys go into the wedding tent to cook. I have to continue preparing the dishes." Shen Yu nodded and stopped disturbing the chef brother. He did not follow his command to go to the wedding tent. Instead, he took Luo Ji and others and waited for the bride at the door like other villagers. Besides, he didn't know where they should sit. They couldn't just sit down in a random seat. It would be inappropriate. It would be bad if they violated a taboo. Chapter 056. During their wedding not long after, accompanied by the sound of firecrackers, a motorcade with flowers and a word on the front of the car slowly stopped in front of everyone. Then, Liu Jiyuan, wearing a black suit, got out of the car with a smile on his face that he couldn't stop. He opened the door and picked up the bride, who was wearing a bright red Chinese wedding dress, from the car. His steps were powerful, as if the whole world was in his arms. With the surroundings and blessings of relatives and friends, they crossed the threshold and the corridor and ran to their home, and also took steps towards their future happy life. Su Jinyu and other female guests were about to overflow with envy at this moment. They clearly saw that the smile on the bride's face was so brilliant. When the groom held her, her eyes never left him, and she also wiped the sweat off his forehead. The thoughts of wanting to fall in love were suddenly infinitely magnified. The childhood friends who blocked the door were also looking for fun. They didn't make it difficult for them. After asking for some wedding candies and wedding cigarettes, they opened the door and welcomed the bride into the room. When Shen Yu and others saw this, they consciously didn't follow. At this time, a young man in a suit. After seeing Shen Yu and others, his eyes suddenly lit up. Trotted over, smiled and greeted. "Hello, I am Zhongshan, a friend of Liu Jiyuan. Sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. He is busy today, so he asked me to take good care of you." Shen Yu stepped forward and shook hands with him. "Hello Zhongshan, we have just arrived not long ago, and we are also curious about your wedding customs, so we watched for a while." Zhongshan nodded and said with a smile. "Jiyuan has reserved a table for you. Please follow me." As he said that, he invited Shen Yu and others to go to the wedding tent with him. Soon, Zhongshan arranged everyone in front of an empty table. This empty table is very close to their wedding stage. Second only to their main wedding table, which is the table where the bride and groom's relatives sit. It can be seen that he still values them. 8 people just made up a table. After Zhongshan poured tea for a few people, he reminded everyone to call him at any time, and then sat at the table next to them. Looking at the villagers sitting around the table, happily chatting about trivial matters, Su Jinyu and others were like curious babies, twisting their bodies around and looking around. It's not that they haven't attended weddings before, but it was indeed the first time to attend a rural wedding. The weddings they attended before were either held in 5-star hotels or in open-air gardens. The specifications were relatively high-end. Among the guests, men usually wore suits and women were dressed in jewels. They were all well-known people in the entertainment industry or the business world, and they were all talking and laughing with red wine glasses. Rural weddings are different. Those sitting at the banquet are either relatives and friends or neighbors. They chat about the daily necessities of life. Compared to the high-standard weddings in the city, weddings in the countryside seem more humane and down-to-earth. Therefore, Wang Ming and others felt novel and yearned for it. About half an hour later, the kitchen began to serve the prepared dishes one after another. Such as Sichuan's #1 cold dish, red oil cold chicken, lotus root with chicken gizzards and fruits, dry beef, hot and sour buckwheat noodles, etc. The red color and rich aroma immediately attracted everyone's attention. It was almost noon, and everyone was hungry. Seeing such delicious food, they couldn't help themselves. Guan Mingzhi stared at the food on the table, drooling. "I couldn't help it, so I said, why don't we eat first? Seeing these delicious dishes, I can't help it." This suggestion was strongly supported by Su Jinyu and others. Even Xu Cai, who had complained about the unhygienic food before, was moved at this time. "I forgot that I had just mocked the chef." Seeing everyone's excitement, Shen Yu couldn't help but chuckle. "How are you going to eat?" "Eat with your hands." After Shen Yu's reminder, everyone realized that the staff who served the dishes just now only brought the dishes and didn't give them chopsticks. Su Jinyu stood up immediately. "They forgot to give us chopsticks. I'll go to the kitchen to get chopsticks for us." As she was about to go to the kitchen, Shen Yu saw this and quickly stopped Su Jinyu to explain. No, they didn't forget to give us chopsticks. Look at the tables nearby, there are no chopsticks." Su Jinyu looked around and was a little surprised. "Oh, really? Why didn't they give us chopsticks? The wedding hasn't even started yet, and you've started eating." When the wedding started on the stage, the guests in the audience had already started to leave. Do you think this is appropriate? Everyone understood Shen Yu's explanation immediately. Su Jinyu smiled awkwardly, stopped talking, and stared at the food on the table quietly. Before long, a little kid was heard shouting not far away. "The bride is coming, the bride is coming." Everyone looked over and saw the bride, wearing a white wedding dress, and Liu Jiyuan, wearing a black suit, coming to the entrance of the wedding tent. At the same time, on the high platform in front of Shen Yu and others, a beautiful MC in a bright red cheongsam slowly walked onto the stage. Dear guests, today is a special day. We gather together to witness the love story of Mr. Liu Jiyuan and Ms. Zhang Ling. Their meeting is destined, and their union is a natural match. Now I declare the wedding ceremony officially open. Let us welcome them with warm applause and start a new chapter of life together. After saying that, he took the lead in applauding. Then, amid the grand applause and blessings of the audience, the groom took the bride's hand. Walking through the neighbors, through friends from childhood, walking through parents and relatives who took care of him without asking for anything in return, he came to the stage. The MC stood between the two. First, he praised the bride's beauty and talent, and then praised the groom's handsomeness and sense of responsibility. Then the topic changed. Ms. Zhongling, are you willing to let Mr. Liu Jiyuan be your husband and enter into a marriage contract with him? Whether you are poor or rich, healthy or sick, you will love him, take care of him, respect him, accept him, and be loyal to him forever until the end of your life. Chapter 057 Because of Love. When the bride shouted out, "I do," the whole audience burst into thunderous applause. When the MC asked the groom the same question, the groom looked at his wife, who was dressed up and gentle, and shakingly said, "I do." At this moment, a smile appeared unconsciously on the corner of his mouth, and tears silently burst out from his eyes. It looked so strange, but when you think about it carefully, it feels very harmonious. After completing their wedding vows, a beautifully dressed little flower girl brought the two people's wedding rings. After the two people put the rings on each other, then the village party secretary served as their witness, announced that the two officially became a legal couple and issued a marriage certificate. Finally, the parents of both the bride and groom came on stage to give the final speech of thanks, and their whole wedding ceremony was perfectly completed. With the last words of the beautiful host, "Let's start the banquet." The staff immediately came on stage and distributed the disposable tableware that had been prepared long ago. Guan Mingzhe, Su Jinyu and others couldn't wait to open the packaging bags and distribute the tableware to everyone. Then they picked up the dishes they had been eyeing for a long time and stuffed them into their mouths. The moment they ate, their faces were full of happiness. Su Jinyu tasted all 6 dishes on the table in a row. Then she slowed down and savored them carefully. The cooking skills of the chef brother just now are really good, but compared to Shen Yu, they are still a little inferior. Wang Ming and others also nodded and said, "Indeed, Shen Yu's cooking skills are indeed slightly better, but this brother's cooking skills can also be ranked among the best in big cities." Xu Cai on the side was silent and focused on the food in front of him. On the stage, the MC sang several songs in a row, and then he spoke again. "Dear guests, you should all know that many big stars have come to our village to shoot a show. Today, they have also come to their wedding scene. Let us welcome their 2 representatives, Ms. Ji Shui and Mr. Shen Yu, with warm applause to send blessings to our newlyweds. What do you think? Okay? As for the recognition of stars, most of them have known them on TV and have no intersection in normal times. When they heard that a star was going to go on stage, everyone cooperated very well and stopped eating and looked at the stage. Shen Yu understood that this was Mengda's arrangement, and quickly wiped his mouth, looked at Ji Shui, and then the two stood up and walked to the stage. After taking the microphone from the MC, Shen Yu thanked him quietly, then waved to the crowd below the stage and said, "Hello everyone, I'm Shen Yu. Hello everyone, I'm Ji Shui." After the two introduced themselves, they said at the same time, "On behalf of all the staff of the Heart-Beating Lovers program team, we wish Mr. Liu Jiyuan and Ms. Zhongling a happy wedding, a long life together, eternal love, and lasting happiness. Next, I'll bring you a song called Because of Love, I hope you like it." As soon as their voice fell, the accompaniment sounded from the speakers. Then, Shen Yu's magnetic, low and gentle voice came out through their microphone. "Give you a CD from the past. Listen to our love at that time. Sometimes I suddenly forget that I still love you. The next second, Ji Shuyi's ethereal and clear voice followed. As if responding to Shen Yu's singing just now, it seemed so warm. I can't sing songs like that anymore. I will blush and avoid it when I hear it. Although I often forget, I still love you. The voices of the two people were like describing a story. The originally noisy wedding tent suddenly became silent. Whether it was the elderly, middle-aged or children, they all sat quietly in their seats, intoxicated by the singing of Shen Yu and the others. The children didn't have so many thoughts, they just simply felt that. The songs sung by the older brothers and sisters on the stage were so nice. However, those middle-aged and elderly people felt a real emotion from the song, which brought back memories and feelings about love. This song has no extra showmanship, no high-pitch rendering. But it is this breeze that sees through everything, and it is as gentle as sound that infects everyone. When singing the chorus of the song, the two looked at each other, and their voices suddenly became a little higher. Because of love, how can there be vicissitudes? So we still look young. Because of love, in that place, there are still people wandering there. People come and go. At this time, Ji Shuyi was also immersed in the world of this song, bringing himself into the role of this song, singing with all his heart. Looking at Shen Yu, his eyes were also full of deep and indissoluble expressions, and Shen Yu was the same. Top singers are always the best in terms of musical empathy. Just like you let international top singers who don't understand Chinese to listen to domestic golden songs. Although they didn't understand what the song meant, they could definitely feel what it expressed from the song, which was empathy. This is what is called music is interoperable and borderless. Of course, musicians have national boundaries. After the song was finished, their whole audience fell into silence. In the live broadcast room, tens of millions of viewers were also conquered by the chorus of Shen Yu and Ji Shuyi, and they were all intoxicated. Oh my god, Shen Yu and Shuyi's voices match so well, my ears are pregnant. This song is really nice, Shen Yu is really a genius, I hope it can be put on the music platform soon. You two should form a group quickly, lock them up, don't let them run away. It's not that you didn't see it, the eyes of the two of them were almost drawn, there is definitely something wrong. I don't know how long it took, suddenly a burst of applause woke everyone up. Then thunderous applause rang out, and cheers came one after another. I don't know who started it, shouting one more song, and then the whole audience shouted in unison. Even some elderly uncles and aunts smiled and waved their arms gently. The song just now by the two of them also touched them a lot. It made them miss the youth and love in their youth. Shen Yu and Ji Shuyi did not expect to be called for an encore on the wedding stage, and were a little stunned for a moment. But looking at the increasingly enthusiastic crowd below the stage, Shen Yu had to take out the song he originally wanted to sing again. Chapter 058 No one else in sight, you are everywhere. He first asked Ji Shuyi to go down and rest, then picked up the microphone and said, "Since everyone is so enthusiastic, I will sing another song for you. But let's make it clear first, after I finish singing this song, you can't call for another song. Let's not delay the good things of the two newlyweds. Don't you want to drink their wedding wine?" The crowd below the stage heard this, and were also amused by Shen Yu's humor. But their goal had been achieved, and of course they would not shout for another song like they did just now. Because Shen Yu had not planned to sing this song before, so he did not have time to get the accompaniment. Even the guitar in the heart-beating house was not brought over, so he could only sing a cappella. He picked up the microphone and said loudly, "A song for the rest of my life, dedicated to the bride and groom and everyone." After saying that, he paused and adjusted his state. The audience in the audience also gave face and quieted down, quietly waiting for Shen Yu's singing. Find the sun in a windless place. Be the warm sun in your cold place. You are always too naive in the midst of human affairs. For the rest of my life, I only want you. Shen Yu's slightly vicissitudes of life came out through their microphone. Almost instantly, he brought everyone present into his own musical world. Ji Shuyi, who had just sat down in the audience, was shocked when she heard Shen Yu singing. She didn't feel anything else when she sang with Shen Yu on the stage. But when she really sat in the audience, she felt Shen Yu's terrifying strength. Not to mention anything else, just talking about the rendering power and empathy of their voice, even she is not as good as him now. You know, she is now considered a real top singer in the Chinese music scene. And she is not like Shu Cai, who is hyped up by die-hard fans, but a real achievement with one popular hit song after another. It is conceivable how strong Shen Yu is on the stage. And she also discovered one thing that makes Shen Yu different. That is his voice. Unlike other singers, whose voices are fixed, she found that Shen Yu's voice is not fixed, but rather changeable. Whether it is The Wind Rises, Blue Lotus, The Color of Youth, and later because of Love, The Rest of Life, his voice has changed. It may be vicissitudes, warmth, or clarity. This means that Shen Yu's style will not be single in the future, and he will be able to control most of the songs. This is the best gift God has given him. Thinking of this, Ji Shui looked at the man on the stage and couldn't help but marvel. What a fascinating man. He is like a scorching fireball. He has a fatal attraction to women like them, and they can't help but want to get closer to him. At this moment, when singing the chorus of the song, Shen Yu's voice suddenly rose a few notes, and the vicissitudes and memories in his voice were so rich that they were about to overflow. And deep in this vicissitudes of life, there is also a deep affection. For the rest of my life, the wind and snow are you, the plainness is you, the poverty is also you, the glory is you, the tenderness in my heart is you, wherever my eyes go, it's also you. After singing this chorus, many old people in the audience couldn't help but shed tears. They felt the most deeply about this song. Just like the lyrics said, whether it's poverty or glory and wealth, whatever they look at is their other half. These old people have all been with their partners, supporting each other through decades of wind and rain, and they naturally understand how difficult it is to do all this. After Shen Yu finished singing, he couldn't help but think of Lin Feiwan. 3 years ago, his thoughts were just like what was written in the song. He wanted to live a plain life with her. A book of ghost blows out the light was enough for the two of them to live comfortably, but in the end they parted ways. Lin Feiwan was not interested in knowing the results of his book, and even if she knew, the result would probably not change. The problem between the two was no longer about money, but about the change of level. If you really count it, even if Shen Yu was a gigolo, he couldn't spend much money on Lin Feiwan in a year, not to mention that Shen Yu had been married for 2 years and used all his own money, and Lin Feiwan and Lin's father and mother never missed the gifts during the holidays. Under this circumstance, Lin Feiwan still agreed to divorce under the persuasion of her family and agent. There is only one reason. That is, she also believes that she is no longer the poor little actress she used to be. Shen Yu is no longer worthy of her at the current level. This is the reason why Shen Yu finally agreed to divorce. Lin Feiwan likes the pleasure of success, and he prefers the pastoral life of idleness. There is no right or wrong in the two lifestyles. There is no difference in superiority or inferiority. Just different concepts. But to say that Shen Yu is not worthy of Lin Feiwan is nonsense, just two opposite paths. You must know that those who are content are always happy, and those who look at things in a positive way have no worries. This is the truth that Shen Yu realized after experiencing the struggles of his previous life and living half his life. Looking at the intoxicated expressions on the faces of everyone in the audience, Shen Yu did not disturb them. Put the microphone on the table and quietly returned to his seat. I don't know how long it took. A burst of applause suddenly rang out. And everyone came to their senses and realized that Shen Yu was no longer on the stage. Although he had already walked off the stage, the audience still burst into thunderous applause again. In the live broadcast room at this time, the comments in the comment area are surging upward like clockwork. And the comments that could be seen in the last second are pushed to who knows where in the next second. This song is so beautiful. It's called The Rest of My Life. I really cried when I heard it. My husband and I started from scratch. It was really hard back then. Fortunately, we managed to survive. Not only are we successful in our careers, but we are still very affectionate after marriage. Sister upstairs, I admire your loyalty to your husband when he was poor, and I also admire his continued love for you after he became successful. I really envy your love and wish you a long life together. Shen Yu is so talented. These two songs make me believe in sweet love again. Wow, I'm going to confess to the person I secretly love now. Yarong, Feiyan, Xiaoyan, Ruonan, Ichio, Xianqiao. Here I come. Next, everything was back on track. The speakers on the stage began to play the previously prepared playlist. And the bride and groom began to toast the wedding wine at each table. Chapter 059 Drunk Again. After Shen Yu sat back in his seat. Except Xu Cai, all the guests at the same table gave warm applause. Especially the four female guests. They stared at Shen Yu with burning eyes. Like a hungry wolf looking at a lamb, they shuddered at Shen Yu. Always felt like meat on the chopping board. After Xu Cai saw it. Although he didn't show any expression on his face, he was about to explode in anger. He found that Shen Yu was like his nemesis. Standing with him was like being cursed. If he was more obedient, he would still have his own place to live. Once he stood out, he would be ruthlessly slapped in the face. And it was said that they were participating in a love variety show, but the four female guests all surrounded Shen Yu. He didn't get any of them. He could only turn his anger into appetite and eat the dishes on the table crazily. Sitting next to Shen Yu, Luo Ji, looking at the glittering Shen Yu whom she had liked for 3 years, was full of pride. As expected, he was the one she had chosen at first sight. There were only things he didn't want to do. If he wanted to do something, there was nothing he couldn't do. Then she picked up the chopsticks and helped him add some dishes. Everyone had breakfast at around 7 in the morning. It was already past noon, and they had just sung 2 songs. Their stomachs were growling with hunger. Shen Yu was not polite, and he picked up the chopsticks and began to eat voraciously. Seeing this, Su Jinyu and others also helped Shen Yu pick up the dishes. They said that Shen Yu was too far away and it was inconvenient to pick up these dishes. As for the real intention, it was already known to everyone. Guang Ming and others naturally saw it very clearly and would not tease him without eyesight. They also understood very well that although they participated in a love variety show, it was actually a variety show in essence. If they can fall in love on a dating show and have a sweet love, they are also very willing. But if not, there is no need to force it. Because it is just a variety show, everything is just a show effect. But even so, they looked at Shen Yu with envy. No way. Who let Shen Yu do what they always wanted to do? Being fought over by 4 female guests, who would not be confused. The seats of Shen Yu and others. Just behind the relatives of the bride and groom. And the seats of their good friends are in the same row. So soon, the bride and groom came to the seats of several people. Liu Jiyuan poured a glass of wine, looked at Shen Yu with a smile on his face and said, "Mr. Shen, thank you for attending my wedding and singing on stage for us. I am really grateful. I offer you a glass of wine." Looking at the enthusiastic Liu Jiyuan, Shen Yu looked embarrassed. He had a clear understanding of his alcohol tolerance. Not to mention white wine, even if it was a big green stick like Yongchuang Qinya, he would be unconscious after 2 bottles. Otherwise, he would not be easily lured to this show by Cao Ziyi. Looking at the whole country, with his alcohol tolerance, he would be the child's table everywhere. So, seeing the glass of white wine in Liu Jiyuan's hand, he couldn't help but be scared. Luo Ji, who was standing by, also noticed Shen Yu's difficulty. She immediately whispered, "Pour less for him. He doesn't drink much and is hungry." Liu Jiyuan nodded quickly after hearing this. He took another small wine glass and poured half of it. As the old saying goes, a full glass of wine is a sign of respect, while a full glass of tea is a sign of deception. My country's cultural heritage is the best in the world. These etiquettes on the wine and tea tables are also a kind of unspoken rules. So his first reaction to toast was to fill the glass. However, since the guest took the initiative to propose, there were no such rules. He quickly changed a glass for Shen Yu. Shen Yu was relieved, took the wine glass and said, "Jiyuan, happy wedding, I wish you a long life together, happiness forever. I'll drink this glass of wine, I can't drink more, I don't drink much, please forgive me." He drank the wine that Liu Jiyuan brought was not those low-alcohol liquor, but Liulianji produced locally in Sichuan province, and it was not 38-degree low-alcohol Liulianji, but 52-degree. After half a glass of wine, Shen Yu's face was slightly red, just like a magic trick. Guang Ming and others saw this and couldn't hold it anymore. When everyone drank together 2 days ago, Shen Yu was like this, his face turned red after 1 glass, and he said it was because of his physical constitution, and it was no big deal. After a while, he was drunk and confused. Liu Jiyuan saw that Shen Yu really couldn't hold his liquor, so he didn't dare to persuade him anymore. Then he started to toast other guests, thanking them for coming to his wedding. Su Jinyu and other female guests all refused with a smile. Guang Ming and the other 2 gave him a glass of wedding wine each. Xu Cai was even more proud. He finally found a thing that he could surpass Shen Yu in, which was drinking. After drinking a whole glass of wine, he looked at Shen Yu proudly, with a look of wonder on his face. But Shen Yu at this time had no time to pay attention to him. Luo Ji next to him was constantly helping Shen Yu pick up dishes to help him suppress his alcohol. This time, taking advantage of Liu Jiyuan's wedding. Shen Yu and others also had the local barber banquet. In fact, there are some differences in the barber banquet in each area of Sichuan province, but the overall difference is not big. Most of the dishes are the same, with only a few dishes being different. There were 23 dishes in total, filling up the entire table. Such as glutinous rice chicken wings, meat with sand, sweet and sour crispy fish, green pepper elbow, pickled pepper chicken feet, fragrant bowl, lotus dumplings, etc., all of which were available. Wang Ming and others were eating so much that they couldn't stop eating. Although they were used to eating delicacies from the mountains and the sea. But if there were no familiar friends to introduce these local delicacies, there would be no chance to eat such delicious food. So everyone had a big appetite. However, what made Shen Yu somewhat desperate was that it was not only the bride and groom who toasted at the wedding, but also the elders of both sides. For Shen Yu, who had just shined on the stage and earned enough face for their son and daughter, the enthusiasm of these elders really made him a little overwhelmed. Various rhetoric emerged one after another. Knowing that Shen Yu's alcohol tolerance was not very good, they also very tactfully poured out a lot of wine in the glass. Anyway, it was just one sentence. You can drink less, but you can't not drink. One person is like this, and so are the others. Shen Yu's face, which had just recovered a little, suddenly turned as red as a monkey's butt. As expected. After a while, Shen Yu was drunk again. Chapter 060. The sky cleared up, the rain stopped, and it felt okay again. After these old people went around. When they came back, they saw Shen Yu had passed out drunk on the table. They all looked embarrassed. Looking at Luo Ji and others with an apologetic look. They really didn't expect that Shen Yu's alcohol tolerance could be so poor. With just a little bit of wine, he was drunk and unconscious. Fortunately, the dishes on the table had been served, and everyone had almost finished eating. After notifying the host, Guan Ming and Guan Mingzhi took turns carrying Shen Yu. And the group returned to the Heartbeat House. The audience in the live broadcast room. What they have seen these days are Shen Yu's talented and omnipotent scenes. When they first saw such a down-to-earth Shen Yu, they couldn't help but tease. Har har har, let's sit at the same table with the kids in the future, this is too annoying. It should be said that Shen Yu's drinking capacity is not even comparable to that of the kids on the grassland. Shen Yu, as long as you dare to let me drink, I dare to sleep on the spot. Drinking is probably the only thing I can do better than Shen Yu. Brother upstairs, you are wrong. In fact, you are still much better than Shen Yu in many aspects, such as ugliness, poverty, and women's popularity. Don't say it, my defense is broken, woo woo woo. After putting Shen Yu on his bed, Luo Ji poured a glass of water and sat beside Shen Yu's bed. Looking at Shen Yu, who was blushing and sleeping soundly, she looked helpless. Although she knew that she couldn't drink much, she couldn't refuse the kindness of the old people. She got drunk, which was really worrying. Luo Ji didn't leave Shen Yu's room. She sat beside his bed, picked up the book on Shen Yu's bedside, and started reading. Su Jinyu and others were also waiting here, but Luo Ji said that one person was enough. They went to play by a famous local waterfall under the leadership of Wang Ming. Compared with the waterfalls in those 5-star tourist attractions, this local waterfall was just a little smaller. In addition, it was located in a remote area, was less well known, and had imperfect transportation and infrastructure. Therefore, there were no tourists. Only local people would go there to play. Without Shen Yu's participation, Wang Ming and the other two stood up this time and supported the traffic of the live broadcast room. Xu Cai was also very handsome. Without Shen Yu as his nemesis, he was very excited all the way. He kept showing off in front of the 3 female guests, and occasionally posed in front of the camera in a pose that he thought was cool, or sang a piece of his own songs. As a result, after walking more than half of the way, his face was sweating more than that of the female guests, and his legs began to tremble slightly. Wang Ming really couldn't help it. He didn't dislike Xu Cai showing off in front of the female guests, but he was afraid that if he continued like this, even if the group reached the waterfall, Xu Cai would not have the physical strength to go down the mountain. He immediately persuaded Xu Cai do you want to drink some water and rest to save some physical strength? We still have a long way to go. Xu Cai didn't know whether he didn't understand Huang Ming's meaning or didn't care even if he knew it. He wiped the sweat off his face and continued to do his own thing. With Shen Yu away, he could completely let himself go. Plus, he had just learned that Shen Yu broke the news that he was divorced while playing games in the morning. The sky cleared up and the rain stopped immediately. He felt that he was fine again. He thought that except for Luo Ji, the other female guests would definitely give up Shen Yu and reselect their favorite guests. He would have a great chance. Huang Ming saw Xu Cai like this and immediately shook his head and ignored him. It was really hard to persuade the damn ghost. Xu Cai was confused, but he saw it clearly. Including Su Jinyu, Zhu Ji, and even Ji Shuyi. After learning that Shen Yu was divorced, they did not show too much concern. If Shen Yu had not been taken care of by Luo Ji. Plus, the show was still live and Shen Yu was drunk, it would be their turn to maintain the flow and popularity. They were unwilling to come. In the Heartbeat House, Shen Yu slept for more than 3 hours before slowly waking up. He gently held his forehead and felt that the whole world was spinning. He felt dizzy and uncomfortable. He couldn't help but groan and forced his eyes open. After hearing the sound, Luo Ji looked up. After seeing Shen Yu wake up, he quickly closed the book. He handed the water cup on the bedside table to Shen Yu and said softly, "You're awake. Drink some water first." Shen Yu saw Luo Ji beside him and took the water cup and drank a sip of water. The dry throat that was about to smoke was better. Shen Yu put down the water cup and looked at Luo Ji gratefully. "Thank you, Luo Ji. You've been watching me all the time." Luo Ji, who was originally a little resentful of Shen Yu for getting drunk. After hearing this, she said helplessly, "We don't say thank you to each other. You can't drink much. Drink less in the future." "I really don't want to drink, but those uncles are so enthusiastic. I really can't bear to disappoint them, so I only drank a little bit. I didn't expect it was still too much." Luo Ji smiled immediately after hearing this. It's okay for one person, but the groom's father, the eldest uncle, the second uncle, and the bride's father and brother, one by one, you all take turns, and it's not a small amount when you add up. Shen Yu touched his nose awkwardly when he heard this. Luo Ji didn't know what to say. "I'll go to the kitchen to make you a hangover soup, you take a rest." Shen Yu hurriedly stopped him when he saw this. "No need, Luo Ji, I'm much better, I won't bother you. No trouble, Jin Yu and the others have prepared all the ingredients, I just need to cook it." She went downstairs to the kitchen and helped Shen Yu cook a hangover soup. Shen Yu rubbed his still sore head. Went to the bathroom to wash his face to sober up, and went downstairs. Finding the living room empty, she went to the kitchen. Did Lao Huang and the others go out? As soon as Luo Ji lit the fire, she saw Shen Yu coming in. They went to the waterfall on the mountain with the staff of the program team. "If it weren't for me, you would have gone to see the waterfall with them now." Luo Ji looked into Shen Yu's eyes without hesitation. "I have seen too many waterfalls in the past 3 years, but you." Luo Ji didn't say the rest of the words. Although Shen Yu was a little slow in emotions, he was not a fool. Of course, he knew what Luo Ji wanted to say. In a sub-live broadcast room below the main live broadcast room of the program team. As soon as Shen Yu and the others went downstairs, the camera in the small room accurately captured the picture of the two. Because the audience didn't know that Shen Yu had woken up. So the number of viewers was not large at this time, only a few 100,000. But the number was constantly increasing. Chapter 061 How could it be boring? After hearing Luo Ji's straightforward words, these viewers, all of them showed their anti-smiles. Luo Ji started to hit the ball straight, without hiding it at all. The healing team is back on the warpath. You are the most suitable pair. Lock it up for me. Luo Ji loves Shen Yu to the core. Shen Yu, you have already missed it once, so you can't be stupid this time. Why didn't anyone wait for me for 3 years like Luo Ji did? Brother upstairs, if you were half as talented as Shen Yu, I wouldn't mind waiting for you for 3 years. In the restaurant of Shandong Hut, Shen Yu drank a large bowl of hangover soup prepared by Luo Ji herself. The pain in my head was greatly relieved, and my whole body felt much more relaxed. After seeing Shen Yu finish drinking, Luo Ji took the dishes and chopsticks very naturally, took them to the kitchen and started cleaning them. She really thinks of herself as Shen Yu's good wife. When Shen Yu saw this, his eyes were filled with gratitude. After seeing this, the audience in the live broadcast room nodded repeatedly. Although some people think that Luo Ji, a talented woman, has absolutely no need to please Shen Yu so much. But more people are very supportive of what Luo Ji has done. In their view, since your heart has already chosen for you, then don't hesitate and go for it boldly. You know, Shen Yu is not ignored. On the contrary, Su Jinyu, Zhu Ji and others were watching covetously from behind. If she really gave in and gave up this opportunity, Luo Ji would probably miss Shen Yu again. In the past few days, they also got to know a little about Shen Yu through live broadcasts. Although he is talented, but in terms of emotions, he is like a fool, always unaware of anything. After Luo Ji came out of the kitchen, seeing Shen Yu sitting in the living room, he also walked over. Wang Ming and others hadn't come back yet, and seeing that it was getting late, Shen Yu suggested, "I think it's getting late. Why don't we go to the surrounding vegetable fields and pick some vegetables so that we can have dinner when Lao Huang and the others come back?" Hearing this, Luo Ji shook her head and said with a smile, "You better have a good rest and don't bother. We don't need to cook tonight." After you got drunk, Liu Jiyuan came to the Shandong cabin and invited us to have dinner at home tonight. We don't have to agree. When Shen Yu heard this, his expression suddenly changed. What happened at noon is still vivid in his mind now. When I thought about what would happen in the evening, my heart was in my throat, and my face was full of resistance. Seeing that Shen Yu was about to retract his head into his neck like a quail, he looked like he was giving in. Luo Ji couldn't help but laugh out loud. She pretended to give Shen Yu a vicious look, and then continued, "Don't be afraid. They just invited us to have a meal this time. Of course, wine is definitely indispensable, but everyone knows how much you drink. As long as you say you don't drink tonight, the wine won't be a big deal." After hearing this, Shen Yu not only did not feel relieved, but his brows furrowed even deeper. He smiled bitterly and said, "It's not like you didn't see it at noon. These old people are really good at persuading people to drink. I really can't stop them." When Luo Ji saw this, she immediately patted her chest. "It's okay, I'll sit next to you tonight, and I'll help you refuse it then." Shen Yu didn't have any better way. When someone invited me to have dinner together, they valued me, so naturally I had to go, so I agreed. Neither of them realized at this time. This is something that couples, or even husbands, only do. Seeing that it's not yet dinner time, sitting on the sofa is a bit boring. Shen Yu then suggested, "Why don't we go out for a walk? Lao Huang and the others haven't come back yet. It's a bit boring just the two of us sitting here." Luo Ji actually wanted to say. The two of them sat together like this, and she looked at him quietly, not bored, and even content with it. After not seeing each other for 3 years, the longing in my heart is like an endless river, which I can no longer suppress. But she also knew that it was not the right time to say these words. When the right to choose is about to be returned to Shen Yu's hands. You can go wherever you want, as long as I'm with you. Hearing this, Shen Yu lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying, "How about we go to the handicraft base you went to last time? I like the panda made of silver filigree that you gave me last time. I also want to try it." Luo Ji suddenly looked embarrassed. Looking at Shen Yu, who was eager to try, he couldn't help but said, Are you? I actually learned silver filigree for a while before, so I can make it so quickly. Normally, it would take a long time for someone who has never been exposed to it." Shen Yu also understood what Luo Ji meant. However, in his previous life, he was also exposed to this when he was filming in Sichuan province. At that time, I also studied with a famous local teacher for a period of time. I am quite confident about my own level. It's okay. I've learned it about silver filigree before, and I won't be slow in getting started. Luo Ji looked at Shen Yu and made up his mind. After knowing that I couldn't persuade him, I didn't stop him. Take Shen Yu to the handicraft base in the village. After a while, the two of them came to a courtyard at the east end of the village. I saw a wooden sign hanging at the door of the yard saying, it says, Inu Village Handicraft Production Base. Shen Yu walked into the yard and saw the raw materials for various handicrafts at a glance, such as bamboo, silk thread used in shoe brocade, etc. Their whole small yard is filled to the brim. Following Luo Ji into the bungalow in front. As soon as they walked in, the masters inside noticed them. After seeing Luo Ji, many people smiled, and it was obvious that they still remembered Luo Ji. A man in his 40s. The middle-aged woman, who was dressed very simply but very cleanly, saw Luo Ji. Greeted with a smile. "Little sister, you are here again. Do you want to make silver filigree or try other handicrafts?" Luo Ji replied with a smile. "Aunt Chen, I still only make silver filigree. This is my friend, and he also wants to experience our silver filigree." "Oh, you two are dating, the boy is good looking, you have good taste." Luo Ji didn't quite understand what Aunt Chen said about playing friends. But when he heard Shen Yu being praised later, he suddenly smiled. The doubts in my heart were put back into my stomach again. I guess what Auntie wants to say is that the two are good friends. In the live broadcast room, netizens from Sichuan and Chongqing areas. One look at the expressions of Shen Yu and the two of them, and it was clear that they both understood what the aunt meant, and they immediately laughed from ear to ear. Chapter 062 The Iron Tree Blooms. At the same time, in the live broadcast room, it has popularized science to the majority of netizens. Har har har, one look at Shen Yu and Luo Ji and they don't understand what it means to be friends. Being friends doesn't mean playing with friends, it means two people who are virgins and a boyfriend and girlfriend. That's what it means. I thought Auntie said the wrong thing just now. I would like to see how the two of them react when they know the true meaning of being friends. Shen Yu also smiled and said hello to everyone. Under the leadership of Aunt Chen, we came to the small cubicle where silver filigree was made. Because the production process of silver filigree is quite special, it cannot be blown by wind. So they are all made in a closed room. Even the fans and air conditioners cannot be turned on. The silver wire used in it is very light and thin. A silver bar as thick as a chopstick can even be stretched 1,000 meters long, enough to circle the playground twice without stopping. The thinnest silver wire is only half the diameter of a human hair. Of course, there are not many masters who can achieve this level, and it can even be said that they are pitifully rare. Some ordinary masters cannot reach this level, usually 0.1 mm to 0.2 mm is enough. And this is just the most basic part of making silver filigree. These silver threads are also made into dozens of types of filaments, such as arch threads and osmanthus threads. Only then can the most difficult step in the silver filigree production process be carried out: flat filling technology. Silver filigree has no color matching. In fact, the layers are expressed by using light and shadow, as well as the combination of silver filigree. The masters only rely on techniques such as arrangement, folding, combination and filling. It can create a stunning visual texture. After completing all these processes, the last step is welding. Each work has only one chance to weld. Even a difference of a few seconds can mean the difference between success and failure. After all this was successful. After the silver is treated to prevent discoloration. This work of art, which has been passed down for more than 1,700 years and exclusively enjoyed by the feudal royal family, can now be presented intact to the public. After arriving at the cubicle, Aunt Chen placed the silver thread she had prepared before in front of the two of them and said, "Little sister, since you can make silver filigree, you can teach your boyfriend. I won't be in charge." As he was about to leave the cubicle. When Luo Ji heard this, her face immediately turned red. The two little hands tightly grasped the corners of the clothes, and said shyly, "Aunt Chen, we are not the kind of relationship you think." As a result, Aunt Chen waved her hand nonchalantly. I know, you young people are so thin-skinned, I won't say it anymore. It looks like it's getting darker and darker." Luo Ji quickly shut up, not daring to explain any more. He also secretly glanced at Shen Yu and breathed a sigh of relief after seeing that his expression was as usual. After Aunt Chen went out, in the whole cubicle, only Luo Ji and the photographer were left. Shen Yu picked up the silver wire on the table. Looking at the approximately 0.2 mm silver filament in front of me, he looked at Luo Ji and said softly, "What are you going to do this time?" Luo Ji had already thought about what she wanted to make on the way here. He blurted out without hesitation, "I plan to make a pair of leaf-shaped earrings this time. What about you, Ayu?" "I'm going to make a flower." "Flower?" "The flower shape is still difficult to make." Would you like to consider changing it to a flatter shape, such as the red panda I gave you before? Hearing this, Shen Yu smiled and shook his head. I didn't lie before. I really know how to make silver filigree. Don't underestimate me. With that said, Shen Yu picked up the tweezers and started making. Seeing Shen Yu's proficiency, Luoji felt relieved and sat down opposite Shen Yu to concentrate on making her own work. In fact, when Shen Yu came to this handicraft base this time, it's not a hot-headed move, but a well-thought-out move. In the past 2 days, Luoji gave him gifts and took care of him when he was drunk. This touched him so much that he thought of giving her a gift. On the way here, he already had an idea in his mind. Although it is not easy to make a flower with silver filigree, but he believed that based on his knowledge of silver filigree in his previous life, the astonishing understanding of this world is still within reach. What he wants to accomplish this time is that the flower is called Ji. That's right, it's the Angelica flower in Luoji's name, which represents purity and beauty. Their whole body is white, which matches the color of the silver filigree. Shen Yu originally thought that he would be a little uncomfortable when he first got started. As a result, there was no sense of ambiguity at all, and the tweezers in my hands were as easy to use as my arms. Shen Yu first outlined the 5 petals and the outline of the stamen in the middle with silver wire. Then he started to outline the petals. Flat filled with silver wire, through the technology of arranging and combining fillings, combined with light and shadow. The concavity and convexity inside the petals are perfectly expressed. Moreover, Shen Yu spent a lot of time on one of the petals. Carefully used tweezers to outline a hollow word, luo. After finishing the petals, he continued to make the stamens without stopping. There wasn't much time left for the two of them. I have to go to Liu Jiyuan's house for dinner in the evening. It would be disrespectful to their host if I go there late. And Luo Ji opposite him. It was almost completed at this time. Although she is not as fast as Shen Yu, she is better because of her simple shape, so she is almost at the end now. In the end, the two of them completed their works one after another. Then each of them took a spray gun and started welding. Both of them were extremely careful in this step. Because if there is a little carelessness and something goes wrong in the process of bathing in fire, then all their hard work before this will be in vain. Fortunately, their skills are quite good. God has favored the two of them. 2 pitch black silver filaments were finally formed. After final antioxidation treatment such as color washing and polishing, only then did the silver filaments bloom again. Until this time, Luo Jizai saw Shen Yu's works clearly. After seeing this Angelica flower, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Their whole person froze on the spot, and his mind went blank. After a long time, then he tremblingly picked it up from the table and looked at it carefully. When he saw his last name outlined in silver thread on one of the petals, and it was also Shen Yu's original thin gold body, their whole eye socket turned red instantly. He took a deep breath, blinked his eyes hard, and suppressed the urge to cry. Then he turned to look at Shen Yu and said, Is this silver filigree work of yours given to me? Of course, I designed this specially for you. It has your last name Luo on it, and the name of this flower is Ji, also called Angelica de Hurica. Chapter 063 Necklace and Memories. After getting the answer you want, Luo Ji suddenly revealed a smile as sweet as the summer breeze, as if it could dispel all the haze in the world. She held the Angelica pendant tightly in her hand, as if she had found a treasure. Thank you, Ayu, this is the best gift I have ever received. I like it very much. As she said that, she picked up from the jewelry column on the side. Take out a sterling silver chain and thread this Angelica flower pendant through it. Passing it to Shen Yu's hand, he turned around and said with a shy face, Can you help me put on this necklace? Shen Yu would naturally not refuse. He walked forward, gently lifted up Luo Ji's hair, and tied the necklace around her neck. The viewers in the live broadcast room couldn't help but scream after seeing the scene of the two people throwing sugar crazily. The sugar content is really too high. That's right, this is what a romantic drama is like. What have you been doing before? I can't survive anymore. Diabetes is about to relapse. I admit that I used to scold Shen Yu a little too loudly for being a straight man. This guy is the real master of flirting with girls. Shen Yu's craftsmanship is really amazing. I am from Sichuan province, and I also know the craft of silver filigree very well. As far as Shen Yu's skills are concerned, there are no more than 20 masters in the country who can do it. Shen is really all-powerful and can do everything. If I have this skill, I won't have to worry about finding a partner. At this time, in the villa area of Magic City, Lin Feiwan saw that Shen Yu actually made a necklace for Luo Ji with his own hands. And after he personally helped her put it on, the anger in his heart suddenly became uncontrollable and surged crazily. She has been suppressing the anger in her heart today. From the time Shen Yu came on stage to sing a sweet duet with Ji Shui, to when Luo Ji kept picking up food for him. Then Luo Ji took care of the drunk Shen Yu without any hesitation. Every incident made her feel extremely angry. She told herself more than once not to be angry, as this program would be over soon. Wait until the next issue. The one who is hanging around Shen Yu is no longer her, but herself. She believes that as long as she apologizes and admits her mistake, and then schedules her work time a little less, Shen Yu will return to her side again, so she keeps giving herself hints, telling herself that there is no need to be angry. After seeing this, I still couldn't hold it back. Because she has received such a gift before. That was when the two were not married yet, and there was a crescent moon with Fei Wan written on it. She liked it very much at that time and was extremely precious. But as time goes by and fame grows, she no longer wears this necklace. If it hadn't been for this incident, she would have forgotten that she still had this necklace. Immediately climbed out of bed. He rummaged through his jewelry box. Finally, in a small corner, I found this necklace that I had abandoned long ago. Holding it carefully in the palm of my hand, I fell into memories. As soon as she put on the necklace, Luo Ji couldn't wait to come to the mirror. Look carefully at the pendant around your neck. As a result, the more I looked at it, the more I liked it, and I couldn't move away from it when I stood in front of the mirror. Shen Yu didn't urge him and looked at Luo Ji with a smile. It's rare to see such a childish Luo Ji. Normally she always looks gentle and elegant, rarely this childish. But seeing that Luo Ji had no intention of leaving, in the end, Shen Yu couldn't help but remind him. We should go back to their hut. It's getting late. We should also meet up and go to Jiyuan's house. After hearing this, Luo Ji reluctantly left the mirror. After the two said goodbye to the masters at the handicraft base, they walked towards the Shindong hut. Just walked into their hut. Su Jinyu saw the two of them on the sofa, stood up quickly and complained. You are finally back. If it is any later, we will contact the program team to urge you. Jiyuan just came over and said that the food is almost ready. When Shen Yu saw this, he apologized quickly. Sorry, we just went to the handicraft base in the village and didn't make good time. Let's set off now. Wang Ming and others immediately stood up. We walked outside the house together. They haven't gone for a long time, just waiting for Shen Yu and the others. Now that everyone is here, they can set off. Xu Cai looked at the two people who had arrived late. Some wanted to complain, but were afraid of being criticized, so in the end they didn't say anything. He was also in a lot of suffering this afternoon. How happy I was at the beginning, but how embarrassed I was at the end. Wang Ming, Su Jinyu and others all deliberately saved their energy when climbing mountains. But he kept expressing himself, making movements and expressions that were difficult for others to understand from time to time, consuming a lot of energy. As a result, a majestic man could go up the mountain at the same speed as Zhu Ji, a woman who had just recovered from a foot injury. It was even more embarrassing when I was going down the mountain, and I started falling behind. Wang Ming and others had to stop and wait for him almost every 10 minutes. Su Jinyu, Guan Mingzhi and others looked at Xu Cai's embarrassment. He also had a sullen look on his face. Don't pretend to compete if you're not strong enough. As a result, it's slowing down everyone's pace. Xu Cai also knows his current situation. Knowing that he was in the wrong, he felt everyone's contemptuous gazes and did not dare to stab him at all. He followed me obediently at the back, not daring to say a word. When 8 people came to Liu Jiyuan's home, Liu Jiyuan just walked out of the house and seemed to want to go out. After seeing Shen Yu and others, he quickly came up to him with a smile and said, You are here, I was just about to call you. Shen Yu said with a smile. I'm sorry, Jiyuan, I just went to the handicraft base and came a little late. It's not too late, it's just right. Come in quickly, everyone, the food is ready. Liu Jiyuan quickly moved and invited Shen Yu and others into their house. As soon as I walked in, I saw that 2 tables of sumptuous dishes had been set up in the house. When Liu Jiyuan's father saw Shen Yu and others coming in, he also warmly entertained everyone. Come on, everyone, sit down quickly. I haven't cooked much food, so I'll just eat a little. Shen Yu looked at the dishes on the table that were stacked because they couldn't fit them. He smiled and said, Uncle Liu, there's almost no room for food on the table. How can I just make do with this? It's really too rich. Uncle Liu smiled honestly when he heard this. This is their tradition here, and they must make the guests satisfied and enjoy themselves. Chapter 064 I didn't even agree, why do I owe 3 things? Knowing that Shen Yu can't drink. So Uncle Liu took Wang Mingzhi, and Xu Cai with him. Sitting on the table with wine glasses. He took his 2 younger brothers to accompany him in person. Shen Yu, who had a poor drinking capacity, sat at a table with 4 female guests, accompanied by Liu Jiyuan and his wife. Wang Ming saw that Shen Yu was not at the same table as them, and couldn't help but joked. Old Shen, you are sitting in the wrong place, come here quickly. When Shen Yu heard this, he quickly clasped his fists and begged for mercy. Brother, you know how much you drink. You'll basically quit after 1 drink. Lao Huang, please spare me. Wang Ming wanted to tease you a few more words. Luo Ji, who was around Shen Yu, said directly. Tonight, he won't even think about drinking a drop of wine, so don't try to make him drink. Su Jinyu and others at the same table also looked at Luo Ji in surprise. Unexpectedly, Luo Ji, who is usually gentle and easygoing, has such a serious and decisive side. Shen Yu also didn't expect. It turned out that what Luo Ji said at that time was to protect herself from drinking. This was such a way of blocking, and she was stunned for a moment. Wang Ming suddenly touched his nose in embarrassment. I was just teasing Shen Yu, and I didn't mean to let him drink. Shen Yu came to his senses and quickly tried to smooth things over. Har, I really can't drink enough. I won't accompany you today, Lao Huang. I'd better eat more food. I really can't get enough of these local delicacies. After Shen Yu's gag, Wang Ming suddenly got off the ground and revealed the matter with a smile. Just then, Su Jinyu sitting next to Luo Ji. Suddenly, she discovered that Luo Ji was wearing a silver white flower-shaped pendant around her neck. It looked extremely exquisite, and I couldn't help but take a closer look. As a result, the more I looked at it, the more I couldn't take my eyes away. This flower-shaped pendant is not only extremely delicate, but also vividly expresses the details of the stamens and petals. What is even more valuable is that on one of the petals, there is also the word Luo written on it, which is obviously specially customized. But this calligraphy seemed familiar to her. In fact, I don't blame him. Yesterday, after Shen Yu wrote the lyrics about love, Ji Shuyi couldn't put it down, and others had no chance to see it. I just glanced at it with my peripheral vision as I walked away and didn't pay much attention to it. Su Jinyu looked at this necklace, the love on her face was beyond words, and she couldn't wait to ask. Luo Ji, where was your necklace customized? I haven't seen you wearing it before. It's so beautiful. Can you recommend a store to me? I also want to customize one, especially this one, and the last name is simply yours. As soon as Su Jinyu finished speaking, Ji Shuyi, Zhu Ji, and even Liu Jiyuan's wife Zhongling also followed their gaze and looked over. When they saw the necklace, they all turned into stars. Only Ji Shuyi was shocked when he saw the word Luo on the petals. She studied for a long time last night the manuscript of the lyrics of love written by Shen Yu. You can tell at a glance that the character Luo is written in thin gold style. Thin gold style is a kind of calligraphy created by Shen Yu, and it has not been widely circulated. In other words, this necklace was not custom made by Luo Ji at all. It was a gift from Shen Yu to Luo Ji. When she thought of this, her originally good mood instantly became much depressed. When she heard Su Jinyu say that this necklace was exclusive to her, Luo Ji's heart felt as sweet as honey. He secretly glanced at Shen Yu and saw that his face was dull. Then he stretched out his soft little hand, gently touched the pendant around his neck and said, "This flower is called Ji, and with the word Luo on the petals, it is my name. This is a gift given to me by Ayu. He made it with his own hands this afternoon. Are you?" Su Jinyu didn't react for a moment. She didn't think about Shen Yu at all, and thought it was the famous jewelry master. Just as her brain was running rapidly, Zhu Ji beside her said with a shocked look on her face. Did Shen Yu do this? Because of the surprise, Zhu Ji's voice even broke slightly. Her voice also woke Su Jinyu up. The two of them stared at Luo Ji with burning eyes, trying to get the answer from her. Luo Ji didn't want to hide it at all. If she really wanted to hide it, she wouldn't have said this just now. It was given to me by Shen Yu. As soon as the words fell, Su Jinyu and others suddenly took a breath of air. He looked at Shen Yu with some surprise, his eyes full of shock. No wonder they are like this. It is true that Shen Yu is a bit sensational, whether it is singing, cooking, calligraphy, etc. Ordinary people, even if they try their best. I'm afraid I can only specialize in one or two of them in my life. But Shen Yu is like a freak. He is only 24 years old. He is actually able to reach heights in many fields that are difficult for others to reach in his lifetime. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they probably wouldn't have believed it. For a long time, Su Jinyu suddenly woke up, looked at Shen Yu and said anxiously, Shen Yu, I also want a necklace. Can you make one for me too? Zhu Ji and Ji Shuyi on the side, although they didn't say it explicitly. But he also looked at Shen Yu expectantly. As long as he nods in agreement, the two of them will speak in the next second. Shen Yu frowned slightly. This is specially designed for Luo Ji. It would be inappropriate to make one for you. It's not the same as Luo Ji, but I also want a necklace of this type. Seeing Su Jinyu and the others with expectant looks on their faces, Luo Ji was a little unhappy at this time. Her original intention was to show off. Unexpectedly, Su Jinyu and others did not act according to common sense, and there was no way to ask for gifts. Shen Yu actually didn't want to take this job. Making this thing is really time-consuming, even he spent more than 2 hours. Moreover, the pendant needs to be redesigned, which consumes brain cells. But Su Jinyu was very nice to him and even gave him a towel made of Sichuan brocade. He was too embarrassed to refuse directly. He could only point to the camera behind him and say, I don't have time to make silver filigree now. We are still filming the show. Mengder will definitely not agree to it. The audience will not pay for it if they stay in the handicraft workshop. When Su Jinyu heard this, a look of disappointment flashed across her face. But he quickly recovered and said with a smile, Then it's settled. After filming the show, you can make one for me. I want it too. Ji Shuyi and Zhu Ji said in unison the next second. Shen Yu looked confused. What was going on? He couldn't understand why. I didn't seem to say just now that I wanted to help Su Jinyu make a necklace. What he said was that he didn't have time. How come from her mouth, it turned into helping her produce it after recording the show. Moreover, Ji Shuyi and Luo Ji were just joining in the fun. I want anything. He didn't want to do any of them, but somehow he ended up doing 3. Chapter 065 You are the biggest contributors. Seeing Shen Yu's confused look, the audience in the live broadcast room immediately became happy. Har har har, Shen Yu's expression is really funny. Shen Yu, did she understand wrongly? I didn't agree. It's really an eye-opener for the old lady to cut off her double eyelids. I learned this trick from goddess Jin Yu. Now I'm going to find my boyfriend. I've already taken a fancy to a carved bag. It's bad. She really learned something. Let's have a second of silence for that brother. Although this is unfair to Luo Ji, I still want to say that Su Jinyu is really brave. Many viewers, seeing Shen Yu's expression, I thought it was interesting, so I took screenshots and made them into emoticons. It unexpectedly became a hit and became all the rage on the internet. Of course, these are all things for later. When Liu Jiyuan saw that Su Jinyu had achieved what he wanted, he was so happy. Then he greeted everyone with a smile. How about everyone come and try the cooking skills of my mother and a few maids? As he spoke, he pointed to a plate of meat dishes on the table. Shen Yu, try this salty roasted white dish. This is my mother's best dish. Her skills are even better than the chef who cooks banquets today. When I was young, the most greedy thing was my mother's salty roasted rice. White. Really? Then I have to try my aunt's craftsmanship. As he said that, he picked up the chopsticks, picked up a piece of salty roasted white, and put it into his mouth. As soon as this piece of salty roasted white meat is taken into your mouth, the mellow aroma of salty, fresh and sweet flavor immediately fills your entire mouth. And it melts in your mouth, fat but not greasy. Shen Yu's eyes suddenly lit up, he stretched out his hand and gave a thumbs up sign. Auntie's craftsmanship is incredible. This braised pork dish looks similar to braised pork with plums and vegetables, but it is still different. The braised pork with plums and vegetables highlights the fragrance of plums and the softness of pork belly. As for this salty roasted pork belly, a special method is used to remove the greasiness of the pork belly, making it taste fat but not greasy. When Liu Jiyuan heard this, he looked at Shen Yu with admiration in his eyes. You are indeed a well-deserved chef. What you said is absolutely correct. We use bean sprouts here, which greatly reduces the greasiness of the pork belly. Seeing the two people commenting on this dish, Luo Ji and others also showed interest. Especially Su Jinyu, she originally had a strict body management plan. The agent also found a professional catering team for her, just to keep her figure in shape. After all, she is a movie queen now. If she appears in a movie, her figure will become a laughingstock. As a result, after joining this romantic drama, I completely let myself go. The food cooked by Shen Yu is really delicious. She had long forgotten that her agent told her to pay attention to her diet. Every time I eat, I want to eat all the food on the plate in front of me. This made the agent in the live broadcast room jump in anger. In the past 2 days, she climbed mountains and went into the water, so the amount of exercise was enough. In addition, this program is coming to an end. Only then did the agent resist the urge to kill him. After eating this dish, the eyes of the 4 female guests also lit up. They had all seen this dish called Xian Xiaobai at lunch. At that time, I thought it was pickled pork with pickled vegetables, but it looked too greasy, so I didn't eat it. Unexpectedly, I almost missed the delicious food. Shen Yu turned around and looked at it at this time, and asked doubtfully, "Hey, why didn't Auntie come to dinner?" Liu Jiyuan heard this and said, "My mother and 2 maids are in the kitchen, and there are still some hot dishes and soup that haven't been served." Shen Yu looked at the large table of dishes and said quickly, "Hurry up and tell Auntie to stop doing it. This is really too much. I can't finish it." Jiyuan still wanted to shirk it, but Shen Yu was very resolute, so he had no choice but to agree and walked towards the kitchen. Seeing this, Shen Yu also stood up and said to Zhang Ling, "Zhang Ling, please bring a few more stools, and I'll invite the aunties over." After saying that, he also walked towards the kitchen. Seeing this, a photographer followed him. As soon as Shen Yu walked to the kitchen door, he heard Jiyuan's voice. "Mom, the guests have said that there is more to eat on the table, so don't make any more." "Oh, you little kid, you don't understand anything. There are still several dishes. Go and greet the guests and don't worry about us." As soon as he finished speaking, Shen Yu walked in. I smiled and greeted several aunties. "Auntie, please stop working. There is already enough food on the table. Any more will be a waste. You'd better eat with us quickly." Jiyuan's mother smiled and waved her hand and said, "Young man, you eat first, and I will cook some dishes for you to try." Shen Yu knew that trying to persuade him would have no effect. He immediately came forward, held his aunt's shoulders and said, "Auntie, please don't bother me anymore. It's really enough. You guys are the biggest contributors to today's meal. Without you, we wouldn't dare to eat it." As he spoke, he gently pushed his aunt towards the kitchen. He glanced at Jiyuan Dao beside him. "Jiyuan, please invite the 2 aunts to the table. I have asked Zhang Ling to put the stools." Jiyuan's mother, seeing that she really couldn't refuse. He gently patted Shen Yu on the shoulder and said, Okay, I'll just listen to you, but there's still soup in the pot. It's already boiling. I'll turn down the heat first." Then Shen Yu and Liu Jiyuan walked in with their aunts. Zhang Ling also had the stools ready at this time. After the aunts walked in, Luo Ji and others stood up to say hello. Jiyuan's mother also had a smile on her face. "You guys are so good looking, it's hard to show off." It was obvious that Luo Ji and others could not understand the Sichuan dialect. After Zhang Ling saw the strange behavior of the 4 people, he smiled and explained, "What my mother-in-law means is that you are so beautiful. There are no words to describe how beautiful you are." Only then did everyone suddenly realize. Even they were very happy to be praised like this in person. This 8 immortals table is very big, and it doesn't feel crowded even if there are 10 people sitting on it. Instead, it feels more cozy. Seeing Shen Yu, he actually thought of going to the kitchen to invite the aunts to eat together. The audience's favorable impression of him in the live broadcast room has improved a lot. I don't know why, the more I look at Shen Yu, the more I like him. He is different from other celebrities. He never has any airs and can chat with anyone. Unlike some celebrities who have to hire a few bodyguards to guard the door when they go to the toilet. Brothers, you seem to have forgotten that this guy is not a star at all. Whether he is a celebrity or not, I am a fan of him. His facial features and outlook are top-notch. The current rice circle culture is really disgusting. There are really too few people like Shen Yu. Chapter 066, Fireflies are just like you, they shine in my eyes. Although the dishes on the table are all home-cooked dishes. But Shen Yu and others were extremely happy with this meal. After eating, Luo Ji and others wanted to help Auntie clean up the dishes. As a result, my aunt decisively rejected me. How can we ask guests to help wash dishes? They don't have such rules here. Although Huang Ming and the others drank some wine, they also restrained themselves. Now they are just tipsy and their faces are slightly red, which does not affect their walking. Liu Jiyuan proposed. Shen Yu, have you seen fireflies? As soon as Su Jinyu finished speaking, the four of them showed interested looks. I saw fireflies when I was a kid, but not so much now. I haven't seen them for a long time. Why, do we have them in our village? Shen Yu also became interested at this time. He hadn't seen fireflies in many years. Yes, if you are not busy, I will take you to catch him. Zhu Ji looked at Shen Yu and the others and said with some confusion. Aren't fireflies made up by special effects? How do you make it sound like it's true? Zhu Ji's words directly caused the entire audience to fall into a brief silence. Shen Yu looked at Zhu Ji, who looked serious. Haven't you seen fireflies? I've seen it. Some of the special effects in movies have it. Shen Yu was speechless. Fireflies are real, not special effects, and they really glow. Looking at her confused eyes, Shen Yu knew that even if he continued to explain, it would not help. Only by letting her see it with her own eyes can she break her inherent perception. Then he looked at Liu Jiyuan and said, Jiyuan, please excuse me, let's go catch some fireflies. Okay, I'm going to prepare some tools. After saying that, he took Zhongling out. Soon, Liu Jiyuan walked in with bottles and cans. After Shen Yu took it over, he distributed the glass bottles among them to Luo Ji and the others. Take your bottles and put the court fireflies in the bottle later. It can be used as a lantern. It's very beautiful. Afterwards, a group of people, led by Liu Jiyuan, walked towards the river. Fireflies generally live near water flows. And the requirements for water quality are very high. The reason why fireflies have been rare in recent years is: one is because of light pollution. The interference of artificial light sources causes fireflies to misjudge and affects their reproduction. Another is environmental pollution and habitat destruction. The living space of fireflies has been greatly compressed, and now there are more than 10 species of fireflies listed as protected animals. After leaving the village, there are no street lights. But the moon and stars in the sky shine especially brightly. The soft light cast by the sun makes it possible to vaguely see the road. Together with the flashlight Liu Jiyuan brought, it was enough for lighting. Soon, led by Liu Jiyuan, the group came to a bush and stopped. No need for him to remind me. Everyone saw in front of them, countless fireflies flashing faint but charming lights. Like the stars in the night sky, dotted in the endless darkness. Zhu Ji saw this scene, which was exactly the same as in the movie. The whole person just froze in place. His eyes were wide open, and his mouth was slightly open in surprise. I stared blankly at the beautiful scene, unable to come back to my senses for a long time. The audience in the live broadcast room were also a little mesmerized by this beautiful scene. It's so beautiful, just like the stars in the sky. Where can I see fireflies like this? Please, this is really important to me. They are just like little elves dancing in the night sky. It's really rare to see fireflies now. When we were young, we often caught fireflies by the river to use as lanterns. Trivia: fireflies emit light in order to attract the opposite sex with the same frequency as it and reproduce. Shen Yu took an insect catching net from Liu Jiyuan's hand. He looked at Luo Ji and the others and said, Do you want to catch it yourself? Female guests including Luo Ji all grew up in the city. Although I know about the existence of fireflies, I have never seen them before. After hearing what Shen Yu said, all of them were very resistant and shook their heads like rattles. Everyone has a sense of nervousness and fear about things they have never done before. Shen Yu didn't force it either. Taking the glass bottle from Luo Ji's hand, he and Lin Feiwan walked towards the bushes. Catching fireflies is not difficult. In addition, there is also an artifact, the insect catching net. Soon the two of them caught 20 or 30 fireflies and put them all in glass bottles. In an instant, a lantern made of fireflies was successfully made. After handing the bottle to Luo Ji, Shen Yu took Su Jinyue's glass bottle again. They are afraid of catching fireflies. Huang Ming and others were a little tipsy, so naturally it was impossible for them to ask for help. Therefore, this important task can only be placed on him and Liu Jiyuan. After seeing the flickering fireflies in this bottle, Su Jinyu and others immediately gathered around and looked at him curiously. Beautiful pictures that could only be seen on the screen before. Appearing in front of them like this, several of them couldn't bear to blink. There are indeed a lot of fireflies here. The two of them didn't spend much effort and arrived at more than 100 fireflies, scattered into 5 glass bottles. The 4 female guests and Zhang Ling all had their own small firefly lanterns. Shen Yu looked at Zhu Ji, who couldn't put it down, and said with a smile, "Now I believe that fireflies are not special effects in movies, but are real." Zhu Ji's face turned hot and he smiled awkwardly. "I believe it. It's really beautiful. It's exactly like the one on TV." Seeing everyone's happy faces, Shen Yu couldn't help but remind him, "You can take the bottle back to your bedroom tonight. But the fireflies will be released tomorrow. They only have a life of 3 to 7 days. They emit light to attract the opposite sex and reproduce. You don't want to see fewer fireflies here." When Luo Ji and others heard this, they all nodded heavily. Said they would come to the river tomorrow and release these fireflies. Liu Jiyuan on the side looked at the situation and whispered in Shen Yu's ear, "Actually, there's no need. There are a lot of fireflies here, and the ones we caught are just drizzle." Hearing this, Shen Yu chuckled and said, "It would be more appropriate to release them. If they die in the bottle, they will feel even more guilty." After Liu Jiyuan heard this, he nodded in agreement. After getting what they wanted, the group headed back home. Liu Jiyuan and his wife were not on the same road as them. After entering the village, he said goodbye and left. After returning to the heart-beating hut, it was getting late, everyone was tired and no longer in the mood to chat, so they all returned to their rooms. Luo Ji deliberately walked to the end and came to Shen Yu's side. Said softly, "Fireflies, like you, glow in my eyes." After saying that, he ran back to his room. Chapter 067, Visiting the Temple Fair. Although today's live broadcast is over, but the topic about the program team and Shen Yu became more and more heated. Many viewers in the live broadcast room post what happened today on your personal account. It instantly attracted many people to watch. On the meager hot search, Shen Yu has been at the top of the list for several days in a row, and today is no exception. # shock. He who is popular all over the internet today is actually divorced. #. What is there that Shen Yu can't do? #. The musical genius lost in the world. Shen Yu. #. 2 golden songs appeared at the wedding, because of love and the rest of life. #. My country's second piano master made a strong confession online. #. Many viewers have moved Shen Yu's live broadcast content in the past 2 days. I actually gained a lot of fans. Some young anchors with more flexible minds. After seeing others enjoying the benefits, they also began to edit the scenes in Shen Yu's live broadcast, and frantically picked up Shen Yu's wool. They also have some fan base themselves. This leads to Shen Yu's reputation on the internet is growing like a snowball. Until a few tepid third-tier actors who rarely appear in front of the screen now. On his own social platform, he publicly stated that he admired Shen Yu and hoped to get to know him. After gaining a lot of fans overnight, it completely detonated the entire internet. There are many celebrities, trainees, etc. whose names I can't even name. They all came out one after another and began to share the traffic. Shen Yu is just like this, he hasn't even set foot in the entertainment industry yet. It has become a popular presence in the entertainment industry. The next morning, Shen Yu woke up from his sleep, washed up and walked out of the courtyard. I started exercising along the outskirts of the village early. While jogging in the morning, I looked at the green mountains and green waters not far away. Shen Yu felt extremely relaxed and comfortable. The refreshing wind in the mountains in the early morning gently brushed away the sweat on his cheeks. He couldn't help but fall in love with this feeling. I couldn't help but open my arms and embrace this spirit of nature. When he finished his morning run and returned to the Shandong hut, Luo Ji and others had already walked out of the room. Su Jinyu saw Shen Yu, who was sweating from the morning run just now, and his short sleeves clung to his body, revealing his strong chest muscles. I couldn't help but swallow secretly. She hadn't noticed in the past 2 days that Shen Yu had such a good figure. You can see the lines on his body through his clothes. His eyes seemed to have grown on Shen Yu's body, and he couldn't look away at all. The audience in the live broadcast room also looked straight at it. Damn it, these strong chest muscles and these graceful lines, whoever looks at them will be confused. Suck, sniff, show me this so early in the morning, then I won't feel sleepy. Who knows who Shen Yu's ex-wife is? How can she get divorced after eating so well? Originally, I thought Shen Yu's peach blossom eyes were seductive enough, but when I saw his strong muscles, I got wet. Sisters upstairs, please wear some rocking pants. This is the comment area, not no man's land. You have a fever so early in the morning. Shen Yu looked at everyone and said with a smile. You guys wait a minute, I'll go up and take a shower and cook for everyone. It'll be quick. As he spoke, he took 3 steps at a time and ran back to his room. Soon, Shen Yu, who had changed his clothes, walked down again. Just as he was about to go to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, Mengder walked in. He quickly called out to Shen Yu. Shen Yu, there's no need to make breakfast this morning. I'll make an announcement. As he spoke, he looked around and found that all 8 guests had arrived before continuing. We also received temporary news that Baihua village, 20 miles away from where we are now, is holding a temple fair today. Do you want to go and experience it? The temple fair is the kind where people walk on stilts and have many children in opera costumes performing in the air. I want to see it. Su Jinyu was like a curious baby, looking at Mengder with excitement on her face. Mengder was immediately asked. He had never participated in a temple fair in Sichuan province. He didn't know if this was the case. He had no choice but to look at Shen Yu for help. Shen Yu understood it and explained to Su Jinyu. Jinyu, what you are talking about is called shahua, not a temple fair. The performance performed by children in costumes in mid-air is called Gao Po opera. It is a custom in Qin and Gan provinces. It is usually held between the New Year and the Lantern Festival. Sichuan the province doesn't have this custom. When Su Jinyu heard this, her face suddenly showed a bit of frustration. She had watched those performances on the video before and was very interested. I thought I could see it with my own eyes today, but my joy was in vain. What fun is there in the temple fair? There are too many, such as dragon and lion dances, Yanko dances, stilt walking, monkey tricks, etc., which are simply too much to lift. The temple fair brings people from all over the country together, and there are all kinds of delicious food and fun. There is everything you need, and famous local opera actors will also be invited to perform. Not only was Su Jinyu attracted by what Shen Yu said. Even Guan Mingzhi, Huang Ming and others behind him became interested. They all expressed their desire to experience the local temple fair. After seeing that everyone agreed, Mengder immediately contacted the program team. Su Jinyu and several other female guests took advantage of this time to go upstairs and pack some personal belongings. When you come out again, they all carried a small bag. As for the male guest, the main theme is to be as still as a mountain. There is nothing to prepare at all. With a pair of eyes and a mouth, you can dominate the whole scene. After a while, Mengder came in again and told everyone that the car prepared by the program team was waiting outside the door. After hearing this, Shen Yu and others got up and followed Mengder into the car. In fact, it was already too late for them to get up. The temple fair in Baihua's High starts at 8 o'clock. It is already 7:30. When we arrived at Baihua's High, the roads along the way were already full of cars. Impossible at all. No way. You can only park your car in the open space outside. Then Shen Yu and others got off the bus and walked into Baihua village. At this time, the interior of Baihuazhai can be described as a sea of people, shoulder to shoulder. There are various market stalls on both sides of the road. There are fragrant, steaming snacks and exquisite handicrafts. Of course, some entertainment items that children like are indispensable, such as roping and the like. Just when Shen Yu and others wanted to eat something early to calm their stomachs, suddenly a voice came from the crowd in the distance. The temple fair parade has begun. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd in the market, which had been packed just now, seemed to have received some kind of signal. All running in the same direction. Su Jinyu even saw an older brother selling Xilong Babo. He just threw down his stall and rushed forward with the flow of people. Chapter 068 North Lion Babel Tower, South Lion Plum Blossom Pile. Su Jinyu was originally a curious baby. Guanmingzhi on the side stood on tiptoes and kept looking in that direction. When Shen Yu saw this, he smiled and said, "Then let's skip breakfast and go watch the temple fair parade first." Instantly received strong support from others. Soon after, several people followed the crowd and came to another road. Not long after, I heard the sound of gongs and drums. It came from not far away and was getting closer and closer. Soon, a dark blue medium-sized tricycle appeared in front of everyone. The tricycle was moving very slowly, with red silk hanging on it. There are banners of the Baihuazhai Temple Fair on the front and body of the car. At this time, in the rear compartment of the tricycle, an elderly man who is old but still energetic. He was holding a drumstick as thick as his wrist, striking the large cowhide drum in front of him that was about 1 meter in diameter. The forceful, sonorous and powerful sound of the drums can be heard clearly within 100 meters. Surrounding the old man were a group of men holding big cymbals, playing a pleasant rhythm to the sound of drums. When Shen Yu heard the familiar drum sound, he couldn't help but be a little stunned. It is somewhat similar to the drum sound in the previous life. Thinking of the past life, netizens ridiculed the 3 nodding drum sound of Phoenix, and Shen Yu couldn't help but smile. Pay off the mortgage, pay off the car loan, pay off the mortgage and pay off the car loan. Brothers, I'm not going to lie to you, this is the tune. You can search it. And behind the tricycle, 2 golden and majestic-looking lion dancers are making playful moves to the sound of drums. It made the children around them happy, and the adults on the side also applauded. After Su Jinyu, Guanmingzhi and others saw the lion dance, there was also excitement on their faces, even they didn't see lion dances often. Then the Dragon King Parade, Luanjia, Yanko team, etc. also passed by several people one after another. The entire parade team walked for more than 10 minutes before disappearing from everyone's sight. Watching the parade leave, the villagers continued to visit the temple fair. Shen Yu and others had expressions of unfinished expression on their faces. Su Jinyu said with starry eyes on her face, "The 2 lion dances just now were so cute. Can we see them again later?" Shen Yu nodded and said, "This is just a parade. There will definitely be a formal performance by the Southern Lions later." Su Jinyu smiled and said after hearing this, "Let's go early during the lion dance performance to find a good seat." While the 2 were talking, Ji Shui on the side suddenly interrupted and said, "Shen Yu, I just heard you call the lion dance the Southern Lion. Is there any additional meaning?" Shen Yu was stunned when he heard this. Looking around, Luo Ji and others all looked confused and said in confusion, "Don't you know that lion dance is divided into Southern Lion and Northern Lion?" Including Huang Ming, a group of people shook their heads in unison. Obviously they haven't heard this statement. Su Jinyu even said bluntly, "Don't all lion dances look like this? The color changes sometimes." Seeing this, Shen Yu had no choice but to educate everyone. Lion dance is divided into North and South. There is a saying that goes like this: the North Lion dances on the Tower of Babel, the South Lion dances on the Plum Blossom Pile, the North Lion dances on the tower, and the South Lion flies on the pile. It refers to the unique skills of the Northern and Southern Lion dances. The lion dance you often see is the Southern Lion, which is characterized by its flexible movement on the plum blossom piles, while the Northern Lion steps on 2 ropes and climbs to a high platform of more than 20 meters with bare hands to perform without any safety measures, and then perform a difficult performance on a high platform. When everyone heard this, they immediately took a breath of cold air. Everyone was shocked by Shen Yu's description just now. This is not a lion dance, this is simply life-threatening. The height of Southern Lion's plum blossom piles is generally about 2.8 meters, which is already very thrilling. I didn't expect that the difficulty of Northern Lion would be so high. It is more than 20 meters above the ground, and there are no measures to climb up except 2 ropes. The viewers in the live broadcast room were also shocked by Shen Yu's words. Shen Yu is right. I am from Henan province. There have been fewer and fewer northern lions in recent years because it is too dangerous and many young people are unwilling to learn it. Oh, I saw the northern lion perform when I was a kid. The northern lion really looks like a lion, and its movements and expressions are so vivid that it makes me very scared when I see it. On the contrary, the southern lion is very cute. Which one do you prefer? Now I know why the northern lion can't become popular. This level of difficulty is SSS. Brothers, if you search for the 8 sons of the northern lion, you will know why the northern lion is in decline now. If Shen Yu hadn't mentioned it, I would have thought that the northern lion was lost. When I was a kid, I saw a lion rolling a hydrangea ball. It was very shocking. Shen Yu's popular science saying. Many northern netizens recalled the northern lion deep in their memories and couldn't help but sigh. Yu province. In a small village called Daliwang. A young man finished his breakfast quickly. I opened the Heartbeat Lover live broadcast room and watched Shen Yu's live broadcast. Just then, Shen Yu's voice talking about the northern lion could be heard in the live broadcast room. On the dining table not far away, an old man was eating breakfast slowly with a rice bowl in his hand. After hearing the sound, my tears were like a river bursting its banks, unable to stop at all. When the young man heard the old man sobbing, his face changed drastically. I quickly put down my phone, ran to the old man, and asked anxiously, "Grandpa, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? I'll take you to the hospital now." The old man took out a handkerchief and wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. He waved his hand and said, "Grandpa is fine. I just heard someone talking about the northern lion on your phone and I got a little emotional for a moment." The young man seemed to have suddenly realized something when he heard this. "Yes, Grandpa, you were a northern lion dancer when you were young, and so was my great-grandfather." The old man gently touched the young man's head and said with a nostalgic look, "Your grandfather and I are average, but your great-grandfather is amazing. He followed the lion dance team of our Daliwang village and won the title of Lion King in the Northern Lion King competition and the 8 sons passing the imperial examination. He then participated in the National Congress of Literature and Art as a folk representative of lion dance and performed for the chairman and prime minister. Our village's lion dance team is so amazing that they have even performed for the president and the prime minister. Of course, Marshal Chen has also seen our performance and said that this is the best lion in China." When he said this, the old man couldn't help but sigh. This is a bit sad. We didn't pass down our ancestors' skills. In order to make a living, they gave up the craft and went to work in the city. Now there are far fewer people who can perform Northern Lion dance than before. The young man lowered his head and thought for a moment. Then he said, "Grandpa, how about we hold another Northern Lion King contest?" Chapter 069 The Temple Fair is in progress. In Baihua village. Looking at the thoughtful people, Shen Yu said with a smile, "Okay, don't think about it so much. People who can perform on stage have very solid skills. Just like acrobats, they have been trained many times." After everyone heard this, their faces improved a lot. They were indeed a little shocked by what Shen Yu said just now. "Come on, let's go have breakfast first. After that, we can go to the temple fair. There will be a performance later." With that said, Shen Yu led everyone to the market just now. Smell the fragrance of various snacks mixed together. Everyone quickly forgot about the Northern Lion incident and drooled from the corners of their mouths. It's hard to agree with everyone, and naturally it's impossible for everyone to like the same thing. So after agreeing on a meeting place, everyone went to buy their favorite food. Shen Yu is also ready to choose breakfast. Seeing Luoji motionless, he was a little confused and said, "Why don't you choose breakfast?" Luoji said softly, "There are too many people here, I want to follow you." Shen Yu looked around. Well, there are indeed quite a lot of people. He immediately said, "Okay, let's go together. If you see what you want to eat, just tell me." Luoji smiled instantly, hummed, and came to his side. After the two of them walked around, they had several more kinds of food in their hands. Their hands were already full of things like steamed meat buns, brown sugar pot cakes, bobo chicken, brown sugar glutinous rice cakes, etc. When I got back to the gathering point, I couldn't help laughing when I saw Huang Ming and others returning with full loads just like me. It seems that everyone is the same. Seeing so many delicious foods, they can't help but want to try them. After everyone has a big meal of carbohydrates. After eating and drinking, we officially started to visit the temple fair. Huang Ming, Su Jinyu and others, although they are big stars, are well informed and have seen many sights that ordinary people can hardly see. But because of his fame. Generally speaking, I rarely come to such densely populated places. I am very interested in the hoops, sandbags and sugar paintings on both sides of the road. And they all started to experience it. As a result, the boss couldn't stand it because he was too weak. Each of them was given a bracelet as a consolation prize. Then they ran away with blushing faces. The audience in the live broadcast room laughed heartily. They did not expect that none of the four female guests could fight. At this time, a burst of cheers suddenly came from not far ahead. It immediately attracted the attention of Shen Yu and others. Squeezing through the crowd, I saw a man wearing a theatrical robe and facial makeup on his face, holding a burning torch in his hand to his mouth. Then the energy sank from his dantian, and a ball of unknown liquid suddenly protruded from his mouth. The flames on the torch suddenly spread out in the air like a fire dragon, like a blazing lotus. After seeing this scene, their whole audience burst into loud cheers again. Su Jinyu and others looked even more excited and clapped their hands red. Subsequently, the flame is under the control of the master. Sometimes wild and galloping, sometimes gentle and lingering. A breathtaking visual feast was staged for everyone. After watching the master's wonderful performance, Shen Yu calmly took out his mobile phone. I scanned the QR code on the box in the open space in front of the master and paid a fee. After all, artists also need to eat. Then the group saw a rare monkey performance. The little monkeys, under the instructions of the monkey tamer, were all naive and made cute actions. Finally, they also performed difficult actions such as riding a bicycle and playing with a stick, etc. Instantly won their house. After watching the monkey show, Huang Ming still had an unfinished expression. He sighed and said, "Nowadays, there are a lot less monkey performers. When I was a child, I could often see monkey performers." Hearing this, Shen Yu nodded and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. Now that monkeys are protected animals, it's naturally impossible to do it like in the past. Now, monkey tricks require a wild animal domestication and breeding license. If you don't have one, it's illegal." The group of people had fun all their way along the market. The viewers in the live broadcast room also followed them to a hearty temple fair. Because I ate too many snacks. Until noon, I was not very hungry. Altogether, I decided to skip lunch first and finish visiting the remaining markets. Just then, on the stage not far away from them, there was a sudden sound of gongs. After hearing this sound, many elderly people, they all got up and walked towards the stage. Luoji also had a look of emotion on her face after seeing it. Her eyes were burning and she looked at Shen Yu expectantly. Shen Yu naturally knew what Luoji wanted to express. She is a top student who graduated from the School of Opera in the Shanghai Academy of Drama. Her love for opera is heavenly. Shen Yu looked at Huang Ming and others and said, "Do you like to listen to opera? If you are interested, let's go listen together. For those who are not interested, we can split into two groups and meet again later." As soon as he finished speaking, Guan Mingzhi shook his head with resistance and said, "I won't go. I really don't understand," and went to take a nap. "I'd better continue visiting the market." Xu Cai on the side saw this and immediately said, "I'm not going either, I'm going with Mingzhi." When Huang Ming saw this, he laughed and teased the two of them. "You two are still too young to appreciate the beauty of opera, but you will fall in love with it in the future." Guan Mingzhi scratched his head and said with a smile, "We have suffered the loss of little experience." Zhu Ji was not very interested in opera at first. But seeing everyone except Xu Cai and Guan Mingzhi going to listen to opera, she didn't want to follow Xu and Cai, so she immediately followed everyone to the stage. There were not many people sitting on the stage at this time. Most of them are elderly people, and there are not many young people. It was easy for them to find empty seats in the front row. Seeing such a scene, Shen Yu couldn't help but sigh secretly. The threshold for our country's traditional culture is really high. People who have no experience will not understand it at all. Now, under the double erosion of rice circle culture and fast food era, it is difficult for young people to sit down quietly and listen to the Chinese quintessence passed down by their ancestors. At this time, Luo Ji, who was next to Shen Yu, suddenly thought of something. He quickly waved to Mengde, who was sitting behind him, and the two of them whispered something. Then Mengde stood up and walked towards the back. Chapter 070: The pain that people in Jiang province cannot describe. On the stage, a rapid drumbeat came from behind the scenes. Then the curtain on the stage suddenly rose. Seeing the dressing of the actors on stage, Luo Ji's eyes lit up and she said, "It's a famous Sichuan opera song, a scene from the legend of White Snake when you go to the lake to borrow an umbrella." Shen Yu also knows a lot about opera. The complete performance of the legend of White Snake in Sichuan opera would take 2.5 hours. It is divided into 8 segments in total. Breaking free from the chains and ascending the mountain, collecting green leaves and descending to the mortal world, traveling around the lake and borrowing umbrellas until the final water filled the golden mountain. Perform the story of Shuxian and Bai Suxian completely. However, due to time constraints, the troupe also had other operas to perform, so they could only choose one representative piece among them. A trip to the lake to borrow an umbrella is naturally very suitable for Shuxian and Bai Suxian to reunite. And when the opera actors start speaking, the sound is melodious and melodious, coupled with the unique charm of the opera itself, it feels like you are in the world of opera. Shen Yu couldn't help but sigh. No wonder people say opera is not sung, but flows from the throat. This kind of voice is really amazing. What our ancestors have passed down is truly extraordinary. After a wonderful performance of borrowing umbrellas for boating on the lake, thunderous applause broke out from the audience. The old people all smiled with satisfaction and praised. "I haven't seen such a wonderful show in a long time." "That's right. I heard that this year, Baihua village spent a lot of money to invite a troupe of actors from the city." "Oh wow, that's incredible. We've invited a troupe from the city." Wang Ming and others also watched with great interest. Even Zhu Ji, who was originally not interested, watched with great interest and applauded wholeheartedly. As the saying goes, laymen watch the excitement, while insiders watch the door. Unlike others, they recognized the actors on stage for their mellow charm and superb skills. Luo Ji also saw the hard work behind every move they made. Singing, chanting, and playing are all excellent. His singing and singing are exquisite and exquisite. I couldn't help but sigh softly. These seniors performed so well. This is true skill that has been practiced for decades. Shen Yu smiled and nodded and said, "Indeed, it takes 10 years of hard work off stage and 1 minute on stage. Opera actors are indeed very hardworking." As he spoke, Shen Yu's voice suddenly changed. However, viewers in Jiang province may not like to watch this. Shen Yu did not control the volume with these words. Not only Luo Ji, but also Wang Ming, Zhu Ji and others on the side also heard it clearly and couldn't help but show doubts in their eyes. In the live broadcast room, many netizens from Jiang province heard this and quickly refuted the rumors online. "Family members, don't dare listen to Shen Yu's nonsense. We people in Jiang province really like opera. I am from Jiang province, not to mention my father. At the age of 30, I already listen to operas from time to time. I want to report Shen Yu, he is violently abusing us Jiang province people." Luo Ji was also a little curious at this time, but she was not worried. She knew that Shen Yu would not say anything without reason. Sure enough, Shen Yu didn't show off and explained directly. "The legend of the White Snake, you should all have heard this story. 2 snakes from Sichuan province fought with a monk from Henan province for a man from Zhejiang province. In the end, the people from Jiang province were flooded. Do you think people from Jiang province will do you like this?" After hearing Shen Yu's explanation, Wang Ming and others were immediately petrified. The audience in the live broadcast room was also quiet at this time. It took a while before things started to get lively. Har har har, it turns out that Shen Yu meant this. There is a reason why people in Jiang province don't like him. If it were me, I would never be able to forgive him in my life. I'll go, I did a search just now, and it's really what Shen Yu said. The people of Jiang province are so unjust. People from Jiang province, I don't know anything. They flooded our Jiang province as soon as they came up. Fortunately, these two snakes from Sichuan province encountered people from Zhejiang province. If they had encountered people from Guangdong province, they would have disappeared long ago. No wonder it's called Shuiyun Jiang province, and it was directly promoted to the 13 Taibao by our Jiang province. Huang Ming and others also reacted at this time and couldn't help laughing. Old Shen, you are really a fucking talent. Most people can't find this problem. Zhu Ji on the side also continued. Well, the people of Jiang province are indeed quite helpless. Luo Ji looked at Shen Yu, who was talking eloquently, and couldn't help but smile. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, and her eyebrows were curved into a crescent moon, as intoxicating as the peach blossoms in early spring. She patted Shen Yu lightly. Don't arrange classics like this. Shen Yu chuckled and said nothing more. Zhu Ji, Su Jinyu, and Ji Shuyi were on the side. After seeing Shen Yu and Luo Ji getting along so harmoniously, everyone has different expressions on their faces, and they don't know what they are thinking. A series of classic Sichuan opera plays. In the hands of opera actors on stage, it seems to come alive. Everyone watching was in awe. Just when everyone is still watching. But the next scene. Two opera actors in costumes have just come on stage. Many old people saw this scene and we all know what is going to be performed next. They all stood up and hurriedly walked away. I saw that most of the people around me were gone. Wang Ming and others looked puzzled. They were cheering and applauding just a few minutes ago, but why did so many people suddenly leave? Just when they were puzzled. Shen Yu on the side also frowned slightly, fidgeting and turning his head to look for Meng dislocation. When Luo Ji saw Shen Yu's look, how could she not know what he was thinking? Said softly. I have asked Mengde to prepare. I think he will be here soon, so you don't have to worry. After hearing this, Shen Yu smiled and nodded and said, Thank you for letting Mengde prepare first, otherwise you may not be able to catch up. Huang Ming watched the two people saying something he didn't understand, and couldn't help but said, What riddles are you two playing? Shen Yu pointed to the stage and said, There is a begging scene in this drama, you will know it right away. Seeing that Shen Yu was unwilling to say more, Huang Ming and others didn't ask any questions and concentrated on watching the performance on the stage. They all understand. Most of the audience has left, and Shen Yu's abnormality is all related to the scene in front of him. So at this time, they couldn't wait to know. What kind of magic does this scene have that can cause such a big response? Just then. Two new actors. The costumes on my body are no longer the same as before, wearing python robes, official clothes, flower pleats, etc. But clothes sewn with pieces of rags. An old man was leaning on a stick, and a woman was carefully supporting him. The two men trembled and staggered to the front of the stage. He fell to his knees and begged everyone to give him and his grandson a bite to eat. This is part of the play, and is also a relatively respectable and subtle way for opera actors to ask for tips. Chapter 71, Kneeling is for the parents who provide food and clothing, and rewarding is for the virtue and art. In fact, the living conditions of the Yuan disciples are not very good. Sometimes, some less famous Yuan disciples who cannot perform on the stage. I also need to take on an extra part-time job to ensure my basic living. At the same time, in order to have a good start. It aims to bring good luck and is a hope for a better life. If the audience thinks their performance is good, they would throw some food or other things to express their love for them. Sure enough, after a while, those old people who just left, carrying boxes of instant noodles, drinks, eggs, etc., they were waiting on the stage in front of the two opera actors. There are a few older people who seem to be quite wealthy. Apparently there is a pension. He took out a few brand new $100 bills from his pocket and inserted them into the opera actor's headscarf. Watching the actions of the elderly, Huang Ming and others were stunned, their faces full of disbelief. I really didn't expect that those people who just left. He actually came back again and again, and he still had so many things with him. The actors on the stage also sang and thanked the villagers who gave them things. When Huang Ming saw this, he looked at Shen Yu with some worry. Whispered, Old Shen, can this be broadcast? If the camera is turned off first, the impact will not be good. Why can't it be broadcast? Isn't this a normal reward? Isn't that what those live broadcasts are? Huang Ming heard this and stopped him eagerly. This one is different. You kneel down and kowtow at the same time. You can easily be bullied by the internet. Hearing this, Shen Yu shook his head and said, "What kind of online violence is this? Look at the audience in the audience, who didn't give it voluntarily. If you think the actors on the stage didn't perform well, will they still give it away? Besides, I think this is normal. Actors kneel to their parents, and the audience appreciates virtue and art. Why does it have a bad impact? When Lin Feiwan and other famous actors came on stage, many people put their gold bracelets and rings on their knees. They were all thrown on the stage. Why didn't anyone say it had a bad impact at that time?" At this moment, Mengder hurried over. Holding some $100 bills in his hand, he handed them to Luo Ji and said, "I asked the staff and that's all there was." Luo Ji took it, looked at it, and replied with a smile, "Thank you, Mengder, that's enough." As he spoke, he gave part of the money in his hand to Shen Yu. Then he looked at Su Jinyu and others and said, "Do you want it?" At this time, they already knew the purpose of Luo Ji and the others. I couldn't help but hesitate a little. They are all big stars with tens of millions of fans. Although he is famous, there are many constraints. If you make one wrong step, you will be backlashed by fans and face online violence in minutes. Among several people, Ji Shuyi made the decision first. She didn't pay much attention to her online affairs and only focused on music. And she was quite satisfied with the performances of these opera actors. So without any hesitation, he took a few $100 bills from Luo Ji. When Su Jinyu, Wang Ming and others saw this, she also felt that what Shen Yu said was reasonable, and immediately took a few cards each like Ji Shuyi. After Shen Yu saw that they were all planning to reward money, he immediately gave them some popular science information. Everyone, please pay attention. Putting money on an actor's head is called a jackpot. It is a recognition of the actor. This money is a reward to the actor alone. Putting money on the ground means that this money is their whole. Everyone in the troupe shares it equally. After saying that, Shen Yu stood up and, walking towards the stage, Luo Ji stood up in the next second and followed Shen Yu. When Wang Ming and others saw this, they had no choice but to follow. At this time, the audience in the live broadcast room, after seeing this scene, it was also very noisy. The opera deserves to be left alone. These people have no spine. They kneel down for a little yellow and white thing. Upstairs, don't donate your ears to those in need. Didn't you hear what Shen Yu said? The people they kneel on are the parents who feed and clothe themselves, and what they are singing is a begging play, and there is no drama. That's right, even if you kneel to death on the stage, no one will reward you. I think the state still needs to step in to control it. The impact is too bad. Hey, upstairs, you wouldn't say that when you reward those marginal anchors, right? This is 1,000 times better than your marginal anchors. People who support Shen Yu and those who oppose him hold different opinions. No one could convince anyone, so they were madly criticizing each other in the comment area. The comment area is full of chaos and their hostility is really too great. Seeing this, Mengder had no choice but to mute the comment section. Even after being banned from the live broadcast room, these people still didn't stop. Then he went to Weibo to stir up trouble, triggering a new round of fighting. On the stage, Shen Yu came to the opera actor with money in his hand. Fold $200 bills at the waist and insert them into the actor's turban. Then he put the other money in his hand on the table. Wang Ming and others behind him also followed suit, imitating Shen Yu's movements and tipping money to the actors. Then everyone did not stay or sit back down, but left directly. After Luo Ji came down from the stage, she was not in a good mood. Seeing this, Shen Yu asked softly, "What's wrong? You feel very depressed after you come off the stage. Tell me what you're unhappy about, and I'll see if I can help you." Seeing this, Wang Ming and others on the side also gathered around. Although they have not known each other for a long time, only a few days, but the relationship between the few of them is still harmonious. If there is anyone who can help, they will not refuse. Besides, Luo Ji's identity is not simple. Within a few years, he became the second piano master in China. He is definitely a national treasure level pianist. Making friends with such people is definitely a sure thing. Seeing everyone caring so much about him, Shen Yu felt a little sorry. He quickly explained, "I'm fine. I just felt sad for a moment when I saw that such a good opera actor didn't have a stage to perform on. He had to come to a small village like Baihuor village to perform and earn a meager salary to make a living. Su Jinyu and the others fell silent after hearing this. The opera industry is in a general downturn right now, and they can do nothing about it. Nowadays, young people are more concerned about the fan circle culture. They are the kind of people who cry and shout to go to the hospital when they accidentally cut their fingers and the wound is less than 1 centimeter. However, few people are interested in the opera culture passed down by our ancestors. Coupled with the skyrocketing housing prices in the city, many theaters could not afford the high rents and were forced to close. Countless outstanding opera actors were forced to change their careers. Just when everyone was silent, Shen Yu suddenly said, "I have a solution." Chapter 072 Another new song. Shen Yu's firm voice. Just like the ray of light that breaks through the darkness, it brings hope. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were focused on Shen Yu. Luo Ji looked at him with burning eyes, full of expectation. She knew that Shen Yu would not say anything that he was not sure about. In other words, Shen Yu really has a way to solve this problem. Shen Yu did not disappoint everyone and said directly, "Nowadays, more and more young people are unwilling to listen to opera. A large part of the reason is that they cannot understand it. The first thing we have to do is to get young people interested in opera and make opera come alive." Hearing this, Luo Ji frowned slightly, thinking about what Shen Yu just said. Wang Ming on the side couldn't wait any longer and urged directly, "Old Shen, we all know what you said. The key is that young people are not interested now. If you have any idea, just say it. This thing cannot be rushed, it needs to be done step by step, such as Chinese-style songs, integrating drama into the songs." As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Ji and Ji Shuyi's eyes suddenly lit up. Both of them are engaged in music, and they immediately understood what Shen Yu meant. Integrate the unique accent of opera into the song. Such a long-term subtle influence will definitely attract many young people. Luo Ji clapped her hands suddenly and looked at Shen Yu with excitement on his face. Yes, we can first incorporate the drama into the songs. Young people are not unwilling to listen to the opera. If they can understand the charm, they will naturally not be unhappy. Shen Yu, you are really great. Shen Yu smiled and waved his hands and said, "Also, you must know that it only takes 1 or 2 years to train an actor, but it takes at least 5 years to train an opera actor. The temperament of opera actors is unmatched by many people. It can make some opera actors who are not yet ready to perform on stage. On the premise that it does not affect your acting practice, you can work part-time as a guest actor on a TV series or movie crew. I believe that the directors of the crew are happy to use theirs and it can also solve their financial pressure. Wang Ming and Su Jinyu have the most say." As soon as Shen Yu finished speaking, Su Jinyu said quickly, "Shen Yu is right. Opera actors are similar to dancers. Directors like to use them. They are very malleable and have very good temperament." Luo Ji thought for a moment and nodded. "If it doesn't affect my opera studies, it's a good idea. It can at least provide for food and clothing." These two suggestions from Shen Yu are very pertinent. The first suggestion can change the current problem of young people not being interested in opera. Another suggestion solved the problem of food and clothing for many unknown opera actors. Suddenly, the rebirth of opera took on a new direction. Luo Ji gently rubbed her head and said softly, "Then what we have to do now is to create Chinese-style songs with dramatic accents as soon as possible." When Ji Shuyi heard this, he stood up without hesitation and said, "I can help. I've been studying how to incorporate some drama into the song these days and try to write a song." Although Luo Ji doesn't like to communicate, she often listens to music. They all recognized Ji Shuyi's status and strength in the Chinese music scene. After seeing Ji Shuyi's strong support, he looked moved and said, "Thank you, Shuyi. It's okay, this is what I should do. We all don't want opera, the quintessence of our country, to decline." Looking at the two people showing their true feelings, Shen Yu really didn't want to ruin the harmonious atmosphere between them. Zhu Ji on the side suddenly said, "Shen Yu, your talent in music is not inferior to that of Shu Yi. You can also help me and try to see if you can create a dramatic song." Shen Yu was worried and didn't know how to speak. Zhu Ji happened to ask, and then he felt relieved and said, "Actually, in my spare time, I also wrote a Chinese-style song about drama, but I didn't release it." As soon as these words came out, Wang Ming and others were instantly petrified, and everyone's brains were buzzing and went blank. They really didn't expect it. Shen Yu would actually bring them such a big surprise. You mean that you have already composed a song about drama? Luo Ji came back to her senses and looked at Shen Yu with surprise. Those eyes were as bright as stars. Ji Shui also looked at Shen Yu seriously. You know, there is no song on the market that incorporates opera singing into the song. If Shen Yu can do it, he is definitely the founder of this style of music. Of course, how could I lie to people about something like this? I'll sing it to you when I get back. After hearing what Shen Yu said, everyone believed it. Luo Ji and Ji Shui both looked forward to it, eager to return to the Shandong hut now. The audience in the live broadcast room also looked excited after hearing Shen Yu say that he had written a song. As we all know, the products produced by Shen Yu must be of high quality. In the past few days on Lianzong, he sang a total of 5 songs. Every song is a hit. If he hadn't had time to register the copyright and record the studio version, I'm afraid this song has already gone crazy on the new song charts in the Chinese music scene. They immediately started speaking in the comment area. Munder, this little clever guy. He had already predicted the audience's prediction and immediately lifted the ban. Har har, I'll be able to hear Shen Yu's new song again later. I'm really looking forward to it. Isn't it really going against the grain to incorporate drama into the song? I hope Shen Yu doesn't overturn. Brother upstairs, you still underestimate Shen Yu. This kid seems to be good at everything except giving birth to children. I don't care. I'm just going to stay in the live broadcast room today. I'm determined to listen to this song. Jesus can't stop me. That's what I said. Small bench, melon seeds, drinks and mineral water are ready. Wait for Shen Yu's performance. In Baihua village, Shen Yu looked at the crowd and said, let's go meet Xu Cai and Mingzhi first, then have a meal to fill our stomachs, and then decide whether to continue shopping. I believe you are hungry now. It's okay if Shen Yu doesn't say anything. None of them thought about that. As soon as I mentioned this, I felt a sense of hunger welling up in my heart. It's already past 3 in the afternoon. After everyone had breakfast in the morning, they ate some snacks on their way to the market. As a result, I wasn't too hungry during lunch, so I didn't eat. As a result, I have been through it all at once, and I can't hold it any longer. When the director Mengder from behind saw this, he immediately came up and said, Shen Yu, you go to eat first. I will ask the staff to contact Xu Cai and Guan Mingzhi to join you. They have already eaten just now. Shen Yu didn't refuse when he heard this, and his stomach was growling with hunger. Dang Ji took Wang Ming and others to the stall selling rice. Chapter 073 Return to the cabin. Wang Ming and others were also really hungry. I came to the snack stall and hurriedly selected the food I wanted to eat. So he sat on a small seat on the roadside and ate his food ravenously. I just want to fill my stomach and don't care about image at all. Of course, they have become accustomed to this way of eating in the past 2 days. Because whenever Shen Yu cooks, they have to eat quickly. If you slow down just a little bit, the food on the table will be eaten by others. After a while, Xu Cai and Guan Mingzhi, led by the staff, joined Shen Yu and others. Seeing that they were just starting to eat now, I couldn't help but wonder. Why are you having lunch now? Shen Yu handled the dandan noodles in his bowl without raising his head and responded. I was a little fascinated by the show just now, and I forgot about it all of a sudden. Xu Cai was speechless when he heard this. It's so funny that I can forget to eat while watching an opera. If it were just Shen Yu, he would definitely ridicule without hesitation. But now the 6 of them are like this, and he is not brainless, so naturally he cannot be stupid enough to cause public outrage. After eating and drinking enough, Wang Ming and others did not want to continue shopping. After shopping for most of the day today, they were already a little overwhelmed. Luo Ji and Ji Shui both felt like returning home at this moment. I'm anxious to go back to the Heartbeat House and listen to the dramatic songs composed by Shen Yu. All together, I immediately decided that today's temple fair tour would end here. Although Mengder is a director, but in fact, he is more like a big housekeeper. After seeing that everyone agreed to return to the Shandong hut, not a word of objection was said. Notify the logistics staff to prepare for the return trip. I would say that he is a useless director. There is indeed some cowardice. But if Mengder is stupid, I am afraid that few people are smarter than him. He clearly knows what he should do and what the audience in the live broadcast room wants to see. When Shen Yu became popular on the internet, he simply overturned all his previous scripts. Even the heartbeat connection that he was most satisfied with was cut off directly by him. Leave the camera to Shen Yu as much as possible. Of course, his decision to let go was extremely wise. The number of viewers at the top of the live broadcast room is the most powerful proof. In the past few days, every time Mengder came to the director's room, his subordinates looked at him with admiration. After all, the better the data on this show, the better. The bigger their bonuses will be. Who would refuse such an unexpected surprise? Back to the heart-beating hut. Shen Yu hasn't sat down yet. Then he saw Luo Ji and Ji Shuyi looking at him expectantly. The same is true for Wang Ming and others. Only Xu Cai and Guan Mingzhi were confused and had no idea what was going on. Guan Mingzhi quietly came to Wang Ming's side, gently pulled the corner of his clothes and said, "Brother Huang, why are you all looking at Brother Shen? This guy has another new song." Wang Ming didn't look back, his eyes were still on Shen Yu, and he hurriedly answered Guan Mingzhi's question. Shen Yu saw this posture. He couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, "No, we just came back and we haven't sat down yet. We shouldn't be in such a hurry. You have to give me time to drink some water." Hearing this, Luo Ji and Ji Shuyi blushed immediately. Ji Shuyi had an idea. "I'll get you a glass of water. You sit down and rest first." After saying that, he turned around and ran away. Luo Ji was left alone, embarrassed and didn't know where to put her hands. After the audience in the live broadcast room saw this scene, they were all made to laugh. Luo Ji is so pitiful, her reaction is too slow. You see, the goddess of calligraphy, she got away early. No, can't anyone take pity on our Shen Yu? He has to sing just after he came back. Even the donkeys in the production team don't dare to do this. Tiezi upstairs, just tell me if I want to hear Shen Yu's new song. I want to hear it. Har har har, no one can resist the temptation of Shen Yu's new songs, especially those who have listened to his songs. Seeing Luo Ji at a loss, Shen Yu had no choice but to take the initiative to help her out. "Luo Ji, didn't you ask Mengder to prepare a paper before? Now I'm going to write out the music score. How about you help me accompany it?" Luo Ji's eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly turned around, took 3 steps at a time and then trotted out. Pieper is not with her now, but with Mengder. Shen Yu was not idle either. After finding paper and pen, he began to draw the accompaniment score. Last time, when Shen Yu wrote lyrics and music about love, Wang Ming, Xu Cai and others didn't pay attention. Now I see Shen Yu drawing the staff by hand so quickly. And it was no worse than the printed one, which made me take a deep breath. Xu Cai's face was even more horrified, his mouth open wide. Even putting an egg in it is more than enough. He never expected that Shen Yu could draw the music score by hand so quickly and accurately. Even he felt a little ashamed of himself. Although he can also take back the music score, let us not talk about the slow speed. The accuracy alone is off by 1,000 miles. It is no exaggeration to say that even if he studies for a few more years, he may not be able to catch up with Shen Yu's current level. Thinking of this, Xu Cai looked at Shen Yu with a bit of jealousy in his eyes. He had previously confidently believed that Shen Yu was a lucky singer. He has produced a few pretty good songs. If he is given time, he is confident that he will be as good as Shen Yu. But now it seems that Shen Yu still has something. Shen Yu's current hand-drawn song sheet music. It's none other than Kai Ling. In fact, the accompaniment of the song Kai Ling uses not only the pieper, but also the pieper. There are also guzheng, flute, ocarina, and so on. But now the conditions are limited, so I can only temporarily use pieper for accompaniment. After a while, Luo Ji trotted back with her pieper in her arms. Looking at Luo Ji, whose breathing was a little short and her chest was rising and falling, Shen Yu handed her the music score he had just written and the water glass he had just drank from and said, "Sip some water first, and then get familiar with this accompaniment as quickly as possible." "Okay, let's get started." Luo Ji, who had just jogged back, nodded excitedly. He took the glass of water and drank it in one sip, then sat on the sofa and read the score intently. Ji Shuyi just wanted to stop him. As a result, as soon as she raised her hand, Luo Ji picked up the water glass and drank it all in one gulp. The words to stop him were on his lips, but he couldn't say them out. Su Jinyu, Zhu Ji and others on the side saw Luo Ji. After drinking Shen Yu's water without any hesitation, everyone's expressions changed slightly. He looked at Shen Yu and then at Luo Ji beside him. Alarm bells rang wildly in my heart. But it happened that Shen Yu and Luo Ji were the two instigators. But I didn't think about it. One leaned on the back of the sofa and closed his eyes to relax. The other one was looking at the sheet of music in his hand intently. Pick up the peeper from time to verify. Chapter 074 Kai Ling appears. Luo Ji is indeed one of the top performers in China. After a while, I could clearly feel the music score in my hand. This was in order not to hold Shen Yu back. I deliberately simulated it several times in my mind, which wasted some time. Otherwise, she would have been able to play. She patted Shen Yu gently and said, "Shen Yu, I'm ready, do you want to start now?" After hearing this, Shen Yu opened his eyes and said with a smile, "Okay, let's get started." As soon as she finished speaking, Luo Ji's temperament suddenly changed. If we say that just now she was a gentle woman with soft fragrance and warm jade, so now she is holding the peeper. He has a cool and noble temperament that repels people thousands of miles away and keeps strangers away. Wang Ming on the side looked excited after seeing Luo Ji like this. Then, he was in the Vienna concert hall. When listening to Luo Ji's piano solo, Luo Ji sat under the spotlight, looking so noble and elegant, like a swan left behind in the world. As the peeper strings dance on your fingertips, it makes a crisp and sweet sound. Shen Yu also entered the state instantly. Bring yourself into Chilling, the story behind this song. Immediately afterwards, Shen Yu's clear and pure voice came out. When the play breaks, the sleeves rise and fall. Singing joys and sorrows, singing separation and separation, has nothing to do with me. The fans open and close, the gongs and drums sound and then fall silent. Love in the play is outside the play, who can tell? After hearing Shen Yu's singing, Shu Cai's eyes widened suddenly. With his level of appreciation, he naturally knew that Shen Yu had created another good song. His eyes have become slightly red due to jealousy. I wish he was the one singing now. And Ji Shuyi, who was not far away from Shen Yu, was completely opposite to him at this moment. She looked at Shen Yu with excitement. Compared to Shen Yu's singing, she was more concerned about the lyrics that Shen Yu just sang. It is clearly about the culture of opera. She originally thought that the songs composed by Shen Yu, it just adds a dramatic singing style, and the rest is the same as ordinary songs. Just to let everyone know about the drama. Unexpectedly, he just released a bomb and wrote the opera directly into the song. Luo Ji was playing the peeper at this time and looking at Shen Yu with a smile on her face, her heart full of affection and gratitude. In troubled times, duckweed endures to watch the flames of war burn the mountains and rivers. In my humble position, I dare not forget about my country, even if no one knows me. And when I heard these two lyrics from Shen Yu, not only Huang Ming and others, but also the audience in the live broadcast room were in awe. In their sight, it's like seeing an inconspicuous little person in troubled times. They may be a worker or peasant, a businessman, a teacher, an actor, or even a thief. But when his country was threatened, he stood up to protect his homeland. Even if you face death in the next second. Even if no one knows about their great sacrifice. Even if some people scolded them for being brainless and not knowing how to protect themselves wisely. But they have no regrets. Who says that little people don't have patriotic feelings? While everyone was sighing, Luo Ji's peeper sound suddenly became more urgent, and the rhythm of the music suddenly accelerated. The chorus of this song comes quietly. When people in the audience walk by, they don't see the old color. The people on the stage were singing a heartbreaking farewell song. The word love is hard to write in ink, and her singing must be reconciled with blood. When the curtain rises and the curtain falls, who is the guest? As soon as Shen Yu's drama appeared, everyone who heard this song was instantly covered with goosebumps. But they don't have time to care about this at this time. As if they had lost their souls, each one of them stood up suddenly and stared blankly in Shen Yu's direction. After Luo Ji heard this most familiar drama, the tears could no longer be controlled and fell like pearls with broken strings. Her vision was blurry, but she still tried to keep her eyes open. Looking in the direction of Shen Yu, the peeper in his hand plays more and more powerfully. The audience in the live broadcast room, after hearing Shen Yu's drama. I was conquered by this deafening and unique singing voice, and the comment area became completely lively. My dear, Shen Yu's voice makes my skin crawl. Who wouldn't be? Is this a drama? It sounds really good. I really like the opera sung by Shen Yu, but why can't I listen to the opera? It's very simple. You need to understand the core of opera. Shen Yu's song only has 1 or 2 lines. You can understand it easily, so you like it. But the whole opera is like this, so you still have to practice. This song is so painful to listen to. This feeling of regret and powerlessness is really so relatable. After singing a song, Shen Yu's singing and Luoji's peeper sound stopped at the same time. The entire Shandong hut fell silent in an instant. It was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Luoji wiped the small pearls left on her face. He and Shen Yu looked at each other, and both of them smiled happily. After quite a while, Ji Shuyi and others came to their senses. Looking at Shen Yu with a look of amazement, he gave his warm and sincere applause without hesitation. Even Shu Cai, who always thinks highly of himself. At this time, I applauded willingly. He had to admit that he was indeed inferior to Shen Yu in terms of drama. Wang Ming walked directly to Shen Yu. She hugged him excitedly and said, "Shen Yu, my friend, you are real genius." Wang Ming's actions seemed to be the beginning. Su Jinyu and others' eyes suddenly lit up. In this name, they held Shen Yu openly. Different from Wang Ming, these lesbians couldn't wait to rely on Shen Yu. If someone hadn't urged her from behind, they would have wanted to hang on Shen Yu all day long. Luoji originally looked excited. With this song by Shen Yu, many young people will definitely understand the drama. After they write a few more songs, it will definitely be able to subtly revive the opera bit by bit. But seeing Su Jinyu, Zhu Ji and others blatantly trying to steal his man, I stopped working immediately. I put down my guitar and rushed forward. After some fuss, after everyone sat back on the sofa, Luoji then asked about the name of the song. The name of this song is Kai Ling. Kai Ling. Luoji heard the words and repeated the name gently. There was also a flash of surprise in his eyes. This character Ling. It's the nickname of their opera actors. In the past, these opera actors were either called opera actors, or actors. At this time, Shen Yu suddenly looked at Luoji and said, "Actually, my opera is not excellent, it can only be above the standard. It would be better if you sang it. When you were in school, you didn't just learn to play. Teacher Liu trained you as a closed disciple." Of Chapter 075. It's not the actors who are ruthless, it's the world. Luoji heard this and quickly waved her hands and said, "You're already singing very well. I'll forget it. Don't tarnish Teacher Liu's reputation." Ji Shuyi and others heard Shen Yu say. After Luoji actually knew how to play drama and was at a higher level than Shen Yu, he immediately became excited. "Luoji, please stop being modest." Shen Yu said, "So, just show us your skills." "That's right, we can't hide it anymore. Our show now has so many viewers, it's a good opportunity to promote opera culture." Luoji originally didn't want to sing. But Wang Ming said, "Taking advantage of the large traffic of the program group and being able to promote opera culture, I started to be interested." He couldn't help but look at Shen Yu. When Shen Yu saw this, he smiled and said, "Then just show it off. Do you want me to sing it again?" "No, I remember everything." Luoji shook her head and cleared her throat. The next second, a melodious voice came from Luoji's cherry mouth. Their voice is as smooth as a clear spring, with a long-lasting charm, and every sentence is full of rich emotions. With just a few words, everyone was mesmerized. After listening to Luoji's drama, only then did everyone understand why Shen Yu just said that he was not as good as her. Luoji's singing is really beautiful. The unique charm of opera is many times stronger than that of Shen Yu. Wang Ming and others immediately gave warm applause. The viewers in the live broadcast room also sighed with emotion. I originally thought that Shen Yu was invincible, but I didn't expect that there were still masters. Goddess Luo sings so beautifully. She not only has such high achievements in piano, peeper and other fields, but is also excellent in opera. She and Shen Yu really match well. They are a bit like the bad guys in this world. Brothers, it's tragic, I'm in love. Quick, 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 that brother is in a hurry, wake up this whimsical fool, Luo Ji can only belong to Shen Yu. The healing group is back on the offensive. What the brother above said is good. Are you interested in joining our healing group? There are more women than men in our group. If you are interested, please search 878. Shen Yu also nodded with approval. Although his understanding is amazing, he still has not studied opera systematically. So it's really a bit different in terms of flavor. He looked at Luo Ji and said, "You will sing this song from now on." Luo Ji heard this and waved her hands quickly. She knew the weight of this song, it was definitely a rare and good song. And this is still on the market. The first song about opera and drama. It can be regarded as the pioneering work that created a new music style. Naturally, he was unwilling to accept Shen Yu's kindness. When Shen Yu saw this, he smiled and said, "We still care about this." After hearing what Shen Yu said, Luo Ji was very moved. "But I still didn't lose my mind because of these sweet words. No, Shen Yu, this is your song. It's really not suitable for me to sing. Besides, your opera style is already very good, but it lacks some unique charm of opera culture. With your talent, and I teach you, you can master it." Looking at Luo Ji's determined look, Shen Yu had no choice but to put this idea back. Continued. "Well, I plan to film the story behind this song into a MV. How about you help me guest star in the MV? I need an opera actor." Luo Ji did not refuse this time and agreed decisively. She didn't agree just now. It's because he doesn't want to take away Shen Yu's credit. Now that she has the opportunity to participate in the MV of this song, she naturally dreams of it. At this time, Ju Ji suddenly asked, "Shen Yu, can you tell us the story behind this song? I felt very sad after listening to it just now." Shen Yu nodded and said, "Then I'll just say it briefly. In that war-torn era, the Japanese invaded a county in our country and asked a very famous local actor to come and perform for them. Otherwise, they would burn down the entire theater and kill everyone. After the famous actor learned about it, he didn't refuse. He turned around and came to the dressing table. He drew his eyebrows carefully and gave a few words to the troupe leader. After he came on stage, the famous actor's sleeves were soft and graceful, and his accent was unparalleled in the world. The stage was full of excitement. The Japanese officers below were in a state of intoxication. At this moment, the famous actor on the stage shouted to light the fire. The troupe leader burst into tears and ignited the kerosene that had been secretly sprinkled before. The entire theater was burned to the ground. All the Japanese were burned to death, and the famous actor was also separated from his favorite stage. Buried together in the fire. After listening to this story, Wang Ming and others suddenly took a breath of cold air. But deep respect also surged in my heart. Everyone knows. The actor is ruthless. But it's not the actors who are ruthless. It's that cruel world. After hearing the story behind Shen Yu, the audience in the live broadcast room, like Wang Ming and others, were full of respect. There are thousands of Chinese people who look like this famous actor. Stand up in times of crisis. Only in that era can we defend our territory of China again and repel the enemy invaders. Luo Ji looked at Shen Yu, her eyes full of emotion. The idea of this song is really good. Coupled with the story behind it, the content of this song is enriched. Previously he felt that after the song was released, if 5% of young people have a little interest in opera because of this, that would be great. But with the story behind it, whether it's something that really happened or a story written by Shen Yu, as long as this song has been released, I'm afraid 20% of the young people have heard Shen Yu's song. Everyone will have a little interest in opera. Although it is still unknown whether they will be willing to watch the opera in the end. However, this has played a big role in the rebirth of opera. A crucial step has been taken. Wang Ming suddenly had some thoughts. He knew that this song would be a hit, but if he didn't do something, he always felt like something was missing. He immediately said flatteringly, "Old Shen, let's see if I, brother, can play a role in your MV. Don't worry, brother, I will play the role for free. I will fully support you, brother." Guan Mingzhi on the side quickly raised his hand and said eagerly, "Brother Shen, I also want a role, and I'll do it for free." Even Chu Cai on the side was a little moved. Shen Yu heard that he really relied on your sad face. He looked at Wang Ming and Guan Mingzhi and said helplessly. In this MV, there is not much else except for the famous actors. Why don't you just be humble and act like a Japanese officer? Wang Ming waved his hand with a gloomy look on his face. No, Japan can only have a tall and handsome guy like me. They are all like pumpkins, not to mention they are ugly and have bow legs. Chapter 76, Theatrical Tunes Explode. Wang Ming's words. It made everyone laugh instantly. When Guan Mingzhi heard that there was only such an annoying character, he immediately refused. At this time, Wang Ming suddenly thought of something. Shouted excitedly. Old Shen, I get it. If you let me play the role of the troupe owner, I will burn those filthy bastards to death. When Guan Mingzhi heard this, his expression darkened and he couldn't help but beat his chest and feet. Why didn't he think of this role just now? Wang Ming saw Guan Mingzhi's disappointed look, smiled and patted his shoulder and said. Xiaoguan, don't be unhappy. You can't act in the troupe. You are too young. You, Brother Huang, and I are just right. Guan Mingzhi thought about it and found that Wang Ming was indeed right. Immediately I stopped worrying. Shen Yu looked at Wang Ming and found that he was indeed suitable to play the role of the troupe leader. He agreed immediately. When Shen Yu's Kai Ling song just started singing, there are many clever netizens who started recording the screen early. Race against time to post on your personal social platform. Now Shen Yu is a traffic password on the internet. Anyone who edits Shen Yu's videos has gained a lot of fans. Like those who posted Shen Yu's latest video updates. The increase in the number of fans is based on tens of thousands. A second earlier can get a lot more fans. However, after their promotion, Shen Yu's song was completely out of the spotlight in the short video. Magic City. In a teacher's apartment at the School of Drama. A young woman wearing home clothes, delicate and elegant, with intelligence and gentleness in her eyebrows. Sitting on the sofa, watching short videos. As a result, I came across a video of Shen Yu singing Kai Ling. After hearing that the song was about opera, I immediately became interested. However, after hearing Shen Yu singing opera tune, his whole body suddenly shook, and he sat up a little straighter. His eyes were fixed on Shen Yu on the phone screen, and his heart couldn't calm down for a long time. After watching this video several times, the woman imitated Shen Yu in the video and copied the drama clips from the song. Sung in full. Not only that, her acting skills are no less than those of Shen Yu. The charm contained in it is no worse than Luo Ji. After a while, a middle-aged woman, whose eyebrows were somewhat similar to those of a young woman, slowly walked down the stairs. Although there are many wrinkles around the eyes, she still has the charm. It can still be seen that she must have been a stunningly beautiful woman when she was young. She looked at the young woman on the sofa and said, Ji Yuan, why are you suddenly interested in singing? After seeing the middle-aged woman coming downstairs, the young woman named Ji Yuan came up to him and said with a smile, Mom, I just found a good song about opera, and it even has a part sung in operatic style. I thought it sounded nice, so I imitated it. The middle-aged woman's eyes lit up when she heard this. Oh, you want to write opera songs? I'll listen to them too. Ji Yuan had been waiting for her mother to say this, and immediately handed over the phone. The middle-aged woman took the phone and saw Shen Yu on the screen. He frowned and said with some surprise, What's wrong with this brat? Mom, do you know this person? After Ji Yuan saw her mother's words, she immediately asked in surprise. She really wants to know who this Shen Yu is. It's such a great idea to actually incorporate drama into the song. The middle-aged woman sighed. This brat's name is Shen Yu. He is also a graduate of our Magic City Drama Academy. He is in the same class as your senior sister Luo Ji. At the same time, she is also your senior sister Luo Ji's sweetheart. You also know your senior sister Luo Ji's temperament. She is casual and indifferent. She doesn't confess her love to others. At the same time, there is another girl who likes this brat. She is bold. There are too many, and the result is self-evident. The two of them are in a pile, and your senior sister is alone in unrequited love. When I was in school, I saw her secretly looking at Shen Yu's photos on her phone several times. Hiss. After Ji Yuan heard about Shen Yu and his senior sister, I couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Senior sister Luo Ji is 2 years older than her. She is her mother and the close disciple of the middle-aged woman in front of her. The relationship between the two is very good. They often played together when they were in school. Even though Luo Ji has graduated now, the two of them still talk on the phone from time to time. Therefore, she is also very familiar with Luo Ji's character. Knowing that this is something she can do. When the middle-aged woman said this, she said nothing more. Click the play button of the video and watch the video intently. Although he was dissatisfied with Shen Yu for not choosing his precious disciple. But he also had to admire Shen Yu's talent. When this guy was in college, he led the filming of a short film. Both the concept and the picture are extremely sophisticated. His softness in winning awards alarmed many well-known directors at the time. Known as the leader of the younger generation of academic directors. Many investors have expressed that they are willing to invest in Shen Yu as long as he has a good script after graduation. But no one thought that after graduation, Shen Yu would. He didn't even engage in the directing industry, but disappeared. This made his teachers at that time a little anxious. Such a good young talent suddenly gave up, and they talked about it for a long time. When the middle-aged woman heard Shen Yu singing an opera tune, his face suddenly became extremely serious. Without saying a word, he turned around and watched the video from beginning to end again. Extremely serious. After reading it, she leaned on the back of the sofa and breathed out. This guy is a genius. He incorporates drama into his songs, which greatly increases the exposure of our opera industry. After saying that, the middle-aged woman immediately stood up and ran upstairs. Running and talking. No, I have to contact your senior sister and ask her to send this guy's contact information. I have to ask him to compose a few more similar songs. In the heart-beating hut, Shen Yu and others were sitting on the sofa, chatting. After walking around the temple fair for most of the day, I was a little exhausted. After a while, Mengder came in, looked at the people on the sofa and said, "The first episode of our Heart-Beating Lovers program will be over tomorrow. Do you want to hold a farewell party tonight? Our logistics team still has some ingredients." Hearing this, Shen Yu couldn't help but sneer. Reveal Mengder's good-hearted face. Har har, when I first came here, I asked for some meat from you, just like cutting your meat. Now that I can't finish it, I think of us. Why did we go there earlier? After Mengder was exposed, he could only smile. He touched his nose awkwardly and said, "I didn't want you to interact more before, but later I found that you didn't need those links anymore." Chapter 077 Holding a Farewell Party. Shen Yu snorted coldly when he heard this. After all, he is his good friend, so doesn't he make things more difficult? He said with an unhappy look. "What do you want to do with this farewell party?" Mengder immediately smiled flatteringly and said, "I just provide some ingredients and logistics. You can decide what to do." After seeing Mengder hand over the decision-making power to them, Shen Yu looked at Wang Ming and others and said, "What ideas do you have? Please share them for your reference." Wang Ming thought for a while after hearing this. Then he said, "How about we have an outdoor barbecue, right by the creek?" When Su Jinyu heard the word barbecue, her eyes suddenly lit up. This is her favorite food. But since she became an artist, her agent has strictly forbidden her to eat it. The number of times we can eat barbecue each year is pitifully small, no more than 3 times. So when they heard Wang Ming talking about barbecue, they became very excited and applauded. In the live broadcast room, her agent, who had been staring at her, turned pale when he saw her like this. She knew how difficult it was to get Su Jinyu, a new generation of actress, to give up barbecue. She spent several years and thought of countless ways. Only then did Su Jinyu's desire for barbecue be reduced to a minimum. If you come here like this today, all your efforts will be wasted. You know, barbecue can be addictive. On the sofa, Shen Yu and others saw Su Jinyu so excited. It's hard to refuse anymore. They all agreed that the farewell party would be held with an open-air barbecue. Seeing this, Mengder quickly went out to prepare. Su Jinyu's agent, who was far away in the capital, had a look of despair on his face at the moment, wanting to cry without tears. Su Jinyu is now high in the sky and the emperor is far away. She couldn't control it even if she wanted to, and her efforts over the past 2 years were in vain. Shen Yu looked at Mengder, who was leaving in a hurry. He also stood up and said, "I will go to the nearby orchard to pick some fruits and make juice and ice powder for everyone during the barbecue in the evening." When Luo Ji saw this, she immediately stood up. He followed Shen Yu and said with a smile, "I'll accompany you." Su Jinyu and others on the side no longer concealed their inner thoughts at this time. Anyway, this program will end tomorrow morning. There is still about half a month until the next issue starts. If we don't seize the opportunity, within half a month. Considering how much Luo Ji attaches importance to Shen Yu, the two of them have definitely become a couple, so there is nothing else to do about them. He immediately followed Shen Yu's pace. A man and 4 women set off towards the orchard in a mighty manner. After Huang Ming, Xu Cai and Guan Mingzhi saw this scene, he also looked helpless. There's no way, why don't they have the strength like Shen Yu? Xu Cai was very jealous of Shen Yu before, thinking that Shen Yu was no big deal. But this Kai Ling song. To be precise, this part of the scene made his scalp numb when he sang it. Only then did he realize. He and Shen Yu are not on the same level at all. Shen Yu is the real powerhouse, and every song is a hit. And the path he takes is closely related to his fans. Through his unique character design, he has attracted a group of fans who are deviant and feel that they are very individual. Then take the path of niche music. I want to take a shortcut and reach the top of the Chinese music scene in a very alternative way. So after learning about Shen Yu's terrifying strength, he suddenly woke up. The two of them are not the same person and have nothing to do with each other. He continued to develop his loyal fans, and Shen Yu could not influence him no matter what he did. The only pity is that the title of God of the Chinese music scene may have passed away from him. Different from Xu Cai's sudden awakening. Huang Ming and Guan Mingzhi don't have so many thoughts. It's true that the two of them came to participate in a love show. If you meet someone you are compatible with on the show, you will be happy to have a sweet relationship. But mostly, I came here because Mengder's variety show offers a lot and is relatively easy. Huang Ming was not lazy. He looked at Xu Cai and Guan Mingzhi and said, "Shen Yu is already working with the female comrades. Let's not be idle. Let's go to Director Meng's place together to see if there is anything we can help with." Naturally, Guan Mingzhi and the two of them had no objections. He and Huang Ming walked out of the Shendorn hut. In the orchard, Shen Yu originally thought of dividing his troops into 2 groups. She and Luo Ji went to the melon shed to pick up 2 watermelons. Let Su Jinyu and the others pick some fruits such as strawberries and cherries first. As a result, Su Jinyu and others acted as if they didn't hear anything. He followed Shen Yu motionlessly. After seeing this scene, the audience in the live broadcast room couldn't help but admire the courage of the 3 people. Har har har, I finally stopped pretending and showed my true identity. We, Luo Ji, are almost going crazy. Look at her frown, it's really heartbreaking. What do you think is so good about this guy Shen Yu? Why is he so popular? I think he is just average. Brother upstairs, I'm not talking about you. As long as you are one of the 3 Huang Ming people, I think you still have a slight chance. But if you are not even as good as the 3 of them, don't compare with Shen Yu. Huang Ming and the others, when did we become the minimum standard line? Shen Yu and the other 5 picked a lot of fruits. Then I picked some eggplants, potatoes, green peppers, leeks, etc. in the vegetable field. Only then did we return to the Heartbeat house. Shen Yu started to prepare the juice and ice powder for the evening. And he, Luo Ji and 4 other female guests. It is to do some work of washing and peeling fruits. The 4 of them were busy chatting with their own thoughts. Su Jinyu was the first to attack, aiming directly at Luo Ji Dao. Luo Ji, what are your plans after the show ends tomorrow? Luo Ji looked at Shen Yu's busy back, a trace of deep love flashed in her eyes. She said softly, "No, I don't know. Maybe I will travel to the Magic City for a while." Su Jinyu looked like she had expected it and continued. "But, you are the most promising candidate to become a piano master in our country. What you have to do now is to break through the realm as soon as possible, so that there will be 2 piano masters in our country." Su Jinyu's words were too straightforward. No matter how stupid Luo Ji was. I also know what she means. It's just that he wants to tie himself up and doesn't want him to go to Shen Yu. Now that others have already shown their swords, she is unwilling to back down this time. He immediately smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. I am now 1 step away from being a piano master. This step is no longer a technical problem. Even sitting in the piano room every day will not help, but it needs to be enlightened. If I travel to the magic city for a while, maybe that day I will suddenly have a breakthrough state of mind. Chapter 78, Barbecue in Progress. After Su Jinyu saw that she did not achieve the desired effect. Don't lose it, retreat and seek the next best way. Luo Ji, you probably don't know yet, but Shen Yu and I are neighbors. If you come to the magic city, you must come to my house as a guest. Then Shen Yu and I will definitely take you to appreciate the beautiful scenery of the magic city. Su Jinyue's words revealed her true intentions. It means that he and Shen Yu are the hosts, a family, and Luo Ji is the guest. She and Shen Yu would treat her like a guest. Luo Ji directly refuted. Thank you, but I went to college at the Magic City Drama Academy. During college, I went to almost every part of the Magic City with Shen Yu and his friends, so I won't bother you anymore. I am going to visit friends this time. I plan to visit the teachers with Shen Yu, and then stay overnight at his place. I feel like when I stay with him, the insights in my mind keep pouring out. I'm much better behind closed doors. Su Jinyu heard this. His face, which was originally smiling, suddenly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. She didn't expect that Luo Ji would not shy away from being in front of the camera, and even said that she would stay at Shen Yu's home when she went to the Magic City. This made all the rhetoric she had prepared useless. Ji Shui saw that Su Jinyue's offensive was being disrupted by Luo Ji one by one, and immediately gave up the plan. Ju Ji thought that since he was also in the Magic City, he had more opportunities. So it also stopped. It didn't take long for Shen Yu to prepare the ice powder and juice. Put it in a larger container. And all the vegetables that will be roasted later have been cut, just waiting to be threaded on skewers. Afterwards, the 5 people packed all the ingredients. Under the guidance of the staff, we came to the river. At this time, by the river, Mengder has already directed the staff of the program team to build a white pergola. Under the pergola, the oven, charcoal fire, tables and chairs are all ready. Wang Ming and 3 other people were sitting on the table making skewers. Seeing this, Shen Yu and others also sat down and started to help. After seeing Shen Yu, Wang Ming smiled and said, "You should hurry up and get ready. Mengder, a black-hearted director, wants us to perform later." Hearing this, Shen Yu quickly turned to look at Mengder. It turned out that this kid ran to the other side early because of a guilty conscience, and didn't dare to look at him at all. He said with a speechless face, "Now I wonder if the show I am participating in is actually a variety show." Shen Yu simply complained. As a result, Wang Ming, Shu Cai and Guan Mingzhi were struck by lightning. "You have no right to say such things. It's our fault." The 3 of them looked at Shen Yu resentfully and shocked him. This resentment is deeper than the abandoned concubines who have been in the cold palace all year round in Qing Palace dramas. After everyone made all preparations. It's already 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Seeing that it was getting late, Shen Yu put the alcohol into the oven. Then add charcoal and grill the skewers until there is no more open flame. Su Jinyu was 1 step ahead of Luo Ji and sat next to Shen Yu. Staring intently at the skewers in front of him, his eyes were filled with little stars. From time to time, he secretly swallows saliva, or licks his lips. Seeing Shen Yu chuckle, I couldn't bear it anymore, so I asked with a smile, "Jinyu, why are you so interested in barbecue? Why didn't you have such a big reaction when I ate other foods before?" Su Jinyu didn't hide it at all. "Barbecue is my favorite food. I have loved it since I was a child. However, after I became an artist, my manager rarely allowed me to eat it. This time she is not here, so I can eat some openly." Hearing Su Jinyue's words, the audience in the live broadcast room felt both distressed and amused. "Eating openly and openly, my goddess Jinyu, you came up with this. Well, it seems that it's not easy for celebrities. Making so much money, you can't even eat more of the food you like. These celebrities, in order to maintain their figure and weight, will even hire a professional team to help them match their food. Hey, that's not right. I see that Su Jinyu, Ju Ji and the others also eat the food cooked by Shen Yu. That's because Shen Yu's rice is so delicious." Soon, a large skewer of roast beef was freshly baked. Shen Yu was still sweating when he handed it to Su Jinyu. Coupled with the fragrance of the seasoning specially prepared by Shen Yu, the scent comes up after scratching it. Huang Ming and others at the table nearby also swallowed subconsciously, looking eagerly in Shen Yu's direction. After Su Jinyu left a few strings for herself, she handed the others to Ji Shuyi and others on the table. Then he happily picked up a skewer. I carefully bit off a piece and wanted to chew it 49 times. The expression is full of enjoyment. Seeing how hopeless she looked, Shen Yu couldn't help but laugh and said, "Eat, your agent is not here." Su Jinyu thought the same thing. Is the agent around? Why bother with this worthless incident? He immediately started eating with big mouthfuls. In the live broadcast room, Su Jinyu's manager felt like the sky was falling when he saw it. The eyes looking at Shen Yu were filled with resentment. She has already decided. After Su Jinyu comes back tomorrow, she must stop contact with Shen Yu. At this time, Su Jinyu, looking at Shen Yu, who picked up a large amount of barbecue again. Suddenly an idea flashed in my mind. Put a skewer on Shen Yu's mouth and said, "Shen Yu, you bake yours and I'll feed you." Shen Yu quickly said no. But Su Jinyu had made up her mind and remained unmoved. Shen Yu had no choice but to open his mouth and take a bite. After Su Jinyu succeeded, she beamed with joy. Although Luo Ji was chatting at the side, she still kept paying attention to Shen Yu. After seeing Su Jinyu's actions, I couldn't sit still anymore, so I picked up a glass of juice on the table and walked over. Putting the straw to Shen Yu's mouth, he said with a smile, Thank you for your hard work. I brought you some juice. You can drink some." After Shen Yu thanked him, he took a sip of juice and continued to concentrate on grilling skewers. Luo Ji then looked at Su Jinyu and said, "Jinyu, just let me stay with Shen Yu here. You can go to the table and eat." Su Jinyu shook her head when she heard this and said, "I don't want it. I'm still learning Shen Yu's skills here. Once I learn it, I can do it myself next time. Everyone knows that she is a drunkard who doesn't care about drinking. But there is no other way. Who makes Shen Yu feel like a wooden man emotionally?" Seeing this, Luo Ji did not return to the table, but sat down on the other side of Shen Yu. When Ji Shuyi and Zhu Ji saw it, a trace of envy flashed in their eyes. They also wanted to get close to Shen Yu. But if they really do this, Wang Ming and the others will really fall into an embarrassing situation. Although the audience in the live broadcast room knew that the four female guests had their hearts set on Shen Yu. But after all, it still can't be too obvious. It is understandable that the troops are divided into two groups, but if they all gather around Shen Yu now, that would really offend people. Chapter 079 Love has no standards. Shen Yu roasted it for several rounds. It wasn't until the heating plates on the table were filled that he stopped temporarily. Luo Ji, Su Jinyu and others returned to the table. Mengde from the perspective of the camera on the side. He quickly gestured to Shen Yu, meaning to ask him to quickly organize the performance. Now the number of people online in the program group has begun to decline. Shen Yu looked at Mengde's appearance and said. Without saying anything, he turned the camera behind him directly. "Look at this kid's face. We're not saying we won't perform. Why are you so anxious?" Mengde also didn't expect that Shen Yu would play such a trick. Caught off guard, he still made the urging movements mechanically. The audience in the live broadcast room also laughed out loud after seeing this side of director Meng. Old Mengde blushed, and after secretly scolding Shen Yu, he quickly escaped from the range of the camera. It's true that Shen Yu can't stand this guy Mengde, and their gay friendship is also true. Naturally, it is impossible to leave it alone. Director Meng, you should have a screen projection device. Cast it in our live broadcast room. The first program is almost over. It's time to chat with our viewers and answer their questions in the comment area. When Mengde heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. He gave Shen Yu a thumbs up and secretly wondered why he hadn't thought of such a good idea. This not only allows celebrities to interact with the audience at close range, it will also greatly increase the number of people online in the live broadcast room. Who doesn't he want to communicate with big stars? Maybe he is his only connection in the entertainment industry. Wait for me for half an hour and I will debug the equipment. After that, Mengde hurriedly directed the staff to install the equipment. Shen Yu couldn't stop laughing when he saw this guy was still so hot-tempered. In the live broadcast room, after the audience heard Shen Yu say that they had to choose questions to answer in the comment area, everyone's face was full of excitement. Wow, I hope Shen Yu can choose me soon. You're a frog, wow, don't even think about it, I'm definitely the one chosen. Brothers, please don't comment later. I will ask you a hot question later. You're really a moldy grape full of bad stuff, you can tell. HMPH, I have 10 years of experience in limited time sales of certain treasures, and I am a weak professional gold medal ticket grabber. I am ready. Half an hour later. A huge curtain rose up from the side of Shen Yu and others. Above is their live broadcast room. When Shen Yu saw the picture on the curtain, he chuckled and said, "It turns out that watching your own live broadcast on the screen is such a feeling." Wang Ming and others also laughed. It was also the first time for them to watch their own live broadcast during a live broadcast, and they also felt it was a bit fresh. While eating barbecue, Shen Yu pointed at the barrage that kept sliding on the screen. "Brothers, let's start working." When Wang Ming and others heard this, they all sat upright and focused on the comments. After seeing that Shen Yu and others were ready, Mengder first parked his mouse on the comment area. Then he directly pressed the controller in his hand. In an instant, the pause button was pressed directly on the comments on the curtain. Mengder saw the comments selected by the arrow. He couldn't hold himself any longer for a moment, and burst out laughing. Wang Ming and others completely ignored their image, and everyone smiled from ear to ear. Keep pounding the table. Luo Ji, Su Jinyu and other four female guests looked embarrassed. After a while, Mengder still looked at Shen Yu with a smile on his face and said, "Shen Yu, this netizen asked you if you could stop being so stubborn about your gender. Do you have anything to say?" Shen Yu's face was livid, with a cold look on his face. There are obviously so many comments, why only this one was selected? It's really sad. He gave Mengder a hard look, this guy's hands were really too dark. He said helplessly, "Can you block this netizen?" Seeing Shen Yu's suffocated look, the laughter that Wang Ming and others had just suppressed began again. However, although this netizen is making some pranks. But I didn't ask those more sensitive questions, either. It's just that he's better at keeping things organized. Shen Yu couldn't refuse, so he had to tell the truth. "Sorry for this netizen, I am still very traditional and there is no room for negotiation regarding gender." As soon as he finished speaking. In the live broadcast room, there are many handsome men dressed in colorful clothes. He sighed at the same time. If Shen Yu wasn't so stubborn about his gender, they would be willing to recommend themselves. After all, Shen Yu is. After seeing that Shen Yu had finished answering the questions, Mengder quickly pressed the controller again and reselected comments. Soon, the second lucky audience member was also selected. "Shen Yu, what type of woman do you prefer? Do you have any standards?" After seeing this question, Wang Ming and others also looked at Shen Yu with curious faces, wanting to see how Shen Yu would answer. Luo Ji and others lowered their heads shyly. "Do you have to take a secret look at Shen Yu?" His two ears straightened up, and his body moved slightly towards Shen Yu. I was afraid that I couldn't hear his answer clearly. Shen Yu frowned and thought for a while, then slowly said, "This netizen, I think you have fallen into a misunderstanding. You have set a standard for love. You will love those who satisfy ABCD, and you will not love those who do not. For example, if he is poor, you will not love him. But this is your misunderstanding. The standards are reserved for those you don't love. When the person you truly love appears, even if he fails to meet these four standards, you will still sink hopelessly. This is called like." As soon as Shen Yu finished speaking, Wang Ming and others felt as if they were struck by lightning. They sat blankly at the table, thinking about Shen Yu's explanation of love just now. Originally they just wanted to have a meal. Look at the four female guests next to you, who is more consistent with Shen Yu's description. But I didn't expect that Shen Yu would actually say something thought-provoking. The same goes for Su Jinyu and others, who kept questioning themselves in their hearts. But Luo Ji is different. When Shen Yu said those words, her eyes never left Shen Yu. As early as 3 years ago, she knew that she was hopelessly in love with Shen Yu. Love is so unreasonable, there is no reason. From the moment she saw Shen Yu completely lived in her heart. In 3 years, her heart has never changed. Apart from practicing piano and reading books every day, the greatest pleasure is looking at his photos. News about Shen Yu's love and marriage. An invisible layer of fog filled the obscure love between the two. When the fog was everywhere, she secretly loved Shen Yu in a deserted place. When the fog cleared, she stopped hiding it and declared her love for Shen Yu to the world without reservation.